With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
As is tradition when traveling to Darlington, it's Throwback Week this week in the Precision Racing League. Unfortunately, I threw it back a little bit too far when writing this intro. I ended up writing it in Middle English, so I can't actually read it, but I can say, welcometh to Round 8 in 2023 Season 2 for the PRL NASCAR Truck Series, live from the virtual Darlington Raceway. And also welcometh to Round 8 of the PRL NASCAR Xfinity Series, coming up a little bit later, also live from the virtual Darlington Raceway. Hi everybody, my name is Joey Tebben. Throwing it back to 2 weeks ago, with me in the booth is Dylan Coyle, and as always, omnipresent, he transcends the boundaries of time. Our producer is Arjuna Kankapati. Dylan, welcome back. It's Throwback Week, and it's start of a little bit of a throwback sequence here. Darlington this week, North Wilkesboro returns next week. Feels like I'm in 1984.
Well, it feels like you can drive anywhere you need to drive to get to these races unless you just sit down and race it virtually, which is exactly what we're doing. By the way, I really wish I got to hear your whole Middle English intro, but whatever. I guess we'll have to wait for another time. We're throwing it back to Darlington and everything that makes NASCAR great. I will say, though, that throwback to me coming back 2 weeks ago is a lot sooner than the throwback that RCR did for Kyle Busch.
That is very, very true. Let's take a look while we can. Let's throw it back to the first 7 weeks of this season with the NASCAR Truck Series driver standings. It is closing up just a little bit. Brett Karakoff has been dominating the championship so far this season. He's led it basically since the very beginning when he won the opening race at COTA. But Patrick Cowgill is closing down that gap little by little. It's only 26 points with 3 races to go. Dallas Sullivan not out of the question either there, 28 points back. Pierre-Luc Ryu and Kevin McGarvey are still holding on to a little bit of hope, but they might be just a little bit too far back unless they can have a great final 3 weeks. And then Dice, loving last week's winner, Matt Karikoff, the winner from 2 weeks ago, and then Dominic Brodeur and Garrett Austin round out the top 10 in the drivers' standings. But in the team standings, it is just that little bit closer, with Regan Bogue Motorsports and Loaded Dice Racing still only separated by 22 whole points, Dylan. With 3 drivers on each team with 3 weeks to go, 21 points is not a lot of points. That can easily close in the next 3 weeks.
Oh yeah, absolutely. For 3 weeks worth of races, I think a lot of it depends on if everybody shows up too. It's got that old short track late model vibe where the more drivers that show up, the more points that are not for the taking, but the fewer points that are for the taking, which can lead to larger gaps, larger deficits being shed, which I think we all quite like.
We always love more trucks showing up. We want those big fields every single week, and those big fields are possible thanks to the sponsors of the PRL who make all of this possible. First and foremost, alphabetically, it's Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Then from Advanced Sim Racing, it's Racebox Sim Racing. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and also get a 5% discount, also using the Precision 5 coupon code. The Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products provide an incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat with The Butt Kicker. This coverage is also brought to you by Mechasim Hardware. Mechasim Hardware is a small company from the Czech Republic, and their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you're looking for a high-end pedal set, handbrake, or sequential shifter, visit Mechasim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed and check them out. And Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. And last but not least, it is Ninja Trader. Better futures start now. Trade the world's future markets with Ninja Trader and visit ninjatrader.com to access unlimited free trade simulation. A little bit of a throwback here because it's about time to get qualifying started. Or it's about 2 minutes into qualifying for the moment. 5 minutes out there on track. Closed qualifying as usual. And not much of a throwback to say Brett Karikoff is on pole once again.
Yeah, that, well, I guess you could say it is a throwback, but it's still in the present, but it was also in the past, and, yeah, something just never changed, just like the fact we're racing at Darlington since the 1949 season, or was it the 48 season? Help me out here.
I don't know, I gotta check the old Wikipedias on that one. It may have been 48. 48 was the first strictly stock NASCAR season, if I remember correctly, but I might have that wrong, too.
Now we have to get our 1948, 1949 years all correct, but
oh, it was not 1949, but the first NASCAR race was 1948. So we were both wrong and right simultaneously. There is Patrick
the best
Cowgill.
Kind of right and wrong.
Exactly. Right on the final corner, crosses the line, 29.806 on lap 1. That's going to be slightly disappointing for Patrick Cowgill, who's only a couple of thousandths off pole in qualifying. He's going to hope for more lap time here on lap 2.
Look at that concentration right there. It's so hard to get around this track. I don't care what car, what truck you decide to jump into. It's going to be a challenge to get the 4 wheels all around this track safely. Look how close he got up to the wall right there on the exit of 4. And
he knows it's pole. Yeah, he knew that was pole.
He was very happy. He looks at the camera and says, "Yeah, that was me."
I mean, he heard me dissing that lap 1, but he must have just been building up the speed there, backing off a little bit. He's actually running a special tribute paint scheme tonight for Jim Westerfield's dad, who unfortunately lost over the week. We'll talk a little bit more about that once the Xfinity race comes around. There's a tribute plan for that, but Patrick Cowgill playing tribute to one of the great supporters of the PRL, puts it on pole. Cody Adkins goes for a huge drift. That's going to be the end of his qualifying session. With only 50 seconds to go, Dominic Brodeur's on the clock for the only lap he's going to get.
This is going to be a really interesting race because usually it is not the easiest to pass here unless you're really strong on the lower lines. We see so often drivers who are just quicker overall, but only marginally, and aren't able to get around the driver who almost takes the entire top line away. That's the fast line here at Darlington, no matter which way you put it out. I think we're going to see big runs, though, coming out of turn 2, as that lap time really does not do much.
Yeah, he got in the wall through 3 and 4, so you can definitely run high at Darlington. You want to get close to the wall, but it's going to be very, very hard to get out of here without a Darlington stripe, and Mr. Dominic Brodeur has gotten his Darlington stripe out of the way, and he waited for so long that he's not going to get a second lap. That's going to be the end of qualifying, and those are the tight quarters we play with here, Dylan.
Yeah, very tight quarters right there. And Brodeur, by the way, his practice time would have been good enough for P7 in qualifying.
Rubbing salt in the wound there.
Sorry!
No salt whatsoever. It's actually a little bit of pepper, because it got spicy there on that Patrick Cowgill qualifying lap as he puts it on pole, ahead of our championship leader, Brett Karakoff. Alan Dice puts it P3 alongside Matthew Karakoff. It's all Karakoff all the time on rows 1 and 2 on the right side there. Steve Loving, last week's winner, starts alongside Dallas Sullivan, and P7 went to Dominic Brodeur in practice. It goes to his teammate Pierre-Luc Ryu in qualifying. Starts alongside Zach Panzarella. Great qualifying from Colton Easterday. The 9 puts it P9, and Dalton Geyer, much higher than last week, in the top 10. Thomas Brendel, half of his number, P11, alongside Mr. Drift himself, Cody Adkins, in P12. Unlucky 13th went to Ryan Traver. He starts alongside the Red Roof Inn's number 1 of Baron Hilton. Then it's Stacey Hunter and Austin Hunter, not related, but still all Hunter on row number 8. Hayden Palumbo and CM Pennington make up row number 9. And down to the top 20, we've got Keith Miller and Robert Goff. Robert Goff beats Oliver Goff to the lead Goff position, and Zachary Smith starts in 22nd. Then a few more hits down to the bottom of the table. Garrett Austin, Nicholas Saint-Germain, Richard Pruitt, and Dominic Brodeur round out 26 trucks in the field tonight. And we have the array of Zoomers here. Not all of them are Zoomers. I have a feeling quite a few of them are millennials.
Oh,
the guy
no, Terry.
guy up on the left, we're not going to talk about him. We'll talk about him a little bit later. But you see Colton Easterday up there on the top right. Under him is Brett Karakoff. Next to him is Patrick Cowgill. And then underneath Cowgill, that's one of our Xfinity Series drivers. And we've got a few other drivers who will be joining us on Zoom over the course of the night, I am sure. But we are about ready to go racing here at Darlington. Before we get started, I am checking the legal books to see who got penalized after last week. And it was just Garrett Austin who was not allowed to qualify. Everybody else who didn't set a qualifying lap time either hit the wall or just elected not to qualify, which doesn't always seem like the best choice at Darlington. You definitely want track position around here.
Track position is so important. I was trying to say before qualifying ended that turn 2 is going to be an interesting point in this track, because a lot of times, because turn 1 and turn 2 is a lot wider and the angle is not as sharp as turn 3 and 4 in this egg-shaped 1.3333 mile oval, like, repeating decimals and stuff. A lot of drivers like to kind of go off the throttle at the apex of 1 and 2, come down low and shoot back up high at the exit of 2, but that wall comes out of nowhere very quickly. But that could be a passing opportunity, or at least a spot where drivers who are running single file could get a run down into 3.
Yeah, unfortunately, Dylan, this is when I start to reveal my my lack of NASCAR throwback knowledge, because there's some beautiful throwback trucks in this field. Almost everybody has actually fulfilled the theme. So we're going to have to dig deep into the archives to figure out who everybody's paid tribute to. But it is the first half of our PRL throwback weekend here. The green flag awaits in the hands of Barney the Flagman. And for the first time tonight, for 40 minutes, we're going racing throwback style in the Truck Series. And the caution is out already. We didn't even make it to turn 2. The back of the field, Ryan Traver is around. Oliver Goff involved. Zachary Smith. Potentially Richard Pruitt. It's all kicked off before we've even got to turn 1.
There were a lot of wiggles going all through turns 1 and 2. Didn't quite see what happened, but we didn't even get through 2 full corners. We'll catch a replay right here. Green flag out on the front stretch at the start, and oh wow, that was just a bad start right there in the back. Someone got checked up. Oh, and then that
Traver
happened.
and Hilton. Nowhere to go for
incidents.
Stacy Hunter either, so 2 separate incidents. And as everybody checks up, all sorts of trucks all over the road. Look further back at that black, red, yellow, and white truck of Oliver Goff in the background. He gets all sorts of loose. I think that's what actually brought the caution out. But everybody else decided to get involved as well. There's Robert Goff on the scene. He actually does a very good job of getting in on the brakes, but Garrett Austin, Zachary Smith, not quite so lucky. Tough start to the day at Darlington. You see Oliver Goff bringing it down pit road already. He's going to go a lap down, as is Garrett Austin. It's always difficult when you get one of these early cautions. He didn't even make it to turn 1. The tension is rising. Now we've basically got to wait for another restart, or another initial start of that matter. Tires still likely fairly cold, unworn as well. So it essentially becomes a 35-minute sprint or so. As we take a look at the basement boy himself, it's Brett Karakoff with the purple lights. He's actually got his name back there. I think that's a new addition. You see Karakoff back there on the wall. He's marking his territory.
That I did see that. That is pretty cool. And now we've got Colton Easterday currently in 8th place. You know, didn't we talk about how he almost goes one-handed with that boom mic right in front of him?
Well, he's doing that right now, you see.
That's incredible. I really always love to think about if anyone's listening to our big fat voices.
Well, look at the amount of screens he has. Not only does he have that ultra wide there, he's got a TV to his side. Patrick Cowgill is enjoying a beverage. I'm trying to identify what that is.
Too.
I think it's a Rockstar.
It did look like that. I think there's a lot of Rockstar stuff going on here. You know, maybe need some
Patrick
Celsius.
Cowgill is a Rockstar, so.
You know, that was a bad one.
He's my Rockstar.
Oh, okay. Now I'm cringing, but I've got more to come that's worse than that, probably. So it'll all even out by the end.
Yeah. I don't think Patrick Cowgill. Well, I don't know if Patrick Cowgill can actually play any instruments. So that's a question I've got to issue to the people of the PRL. How many people can play instruments? Do we have any real rock stars around here?
I can play piano and harmonica. Basically, I can play Piano Man.
Those are some pretty rocking instruments, if I do say so myself. I took 1 semester of Intro to Piano, which was basically college students learning how to play the piano at a 5-year-old level, and I remember none of it, so I am not a rock star whatsoever.
Oh my goodness.
I don't even.
You're a rock star in my heart.
I think I can play Jingle Bells. I think that's all I've got, but we're about to get festive here. About to get festive here again. The iRacing sedan pace car pulls off, and a 40-minute race becomes a 36-minute race. As Barney the Flagman experiences just a little bit of deja vu, Patrick Cowgill leads us back to green. Brett Karakoff still to his outside. And we are racing once more at Darlington. A little bit cleaner at the back, a little bit of a checkup. It seems like we have survived the front straight, at least for the moment. Can we avoid any contact through turns 1 and 2 this time? Cody Adkins brushes the wall. But we are clean for the most part through 1 and 2. We've made it further than last time.
There's no track more synonymous with the donuts on the side of the cars or the trucks than Darlington. It's a Darlington stripe. It's basically, if you do not get a Darlington stripe, you're not even performing well enough to say you raced at Darlington, in my opinion.
That was Dominic Brodeur who got into the wall, showing us on the front end of that truck, by the way. The Brodeur, I believe, translates to brother in French, so he's living up to his new nickname. But up front, Brett Karakoff on the charge, on the challenge for Patrick Cowgill. Not content to run second for the moment. Great run off of turn 2, and he is all the way to the back of Patrick Cowgill already.
I'll be honest, I don't think Brodeur's... Brodeur's probably like an old... Like, that makes sense, what you're saying, and...
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking Martin Brodeur, famous New Jersey Devils goaltender. My goodness. Martin Brother. Oh, brother.
Well, oh, brother, indeed. Here it is, off of turn 2. Bonk. Straight into the wall. I can't tell you how many times I've done that at Darlington, Dylan. It happens to everybody eventually. That wall is just evil. It comes out and bites you.
Sometimes you only get to do it once. And if you only do it once in a race, that means that was the last time you even took a lap.
Exactly. So we'll see who gets there next. By the way, we do have an update in the chat. Zach Austin, who I assume is related to Garrett Austin, says that Mr. Garrett Austin, Mr. 34, plays a bunch of instruments. So maybe he's our real rock star. He is 1 lap down, though, so he's hoping for a lucky dog a little bit later. This is a little bit of a loose moment off of turn 2 for Pierre-Luc Ryu. He puts himself under pressure for Matthew Karakov, who's up into the top 5.
Some of these schemes are really nice. I know we were kind of mentioning it just a little bit, but it's so cool seeing the Craftsman banner. Oh, as that was a little wiggle off of, I believe, turn 2. It's so cool seeing the Craftsman banner, though, back on these trucks because it just feels right. You know, it feels like that is the brand most synonymous with these trucks in real life. And seeing it on these trucks with the throwback, really cool.
Brett Karakov getting the challenge on. He actually did barely get side-by-side with Patrick Cowgill there through 3 and 4, so he is showing his nose already. I'm trying to figure out what this is a throwback to, because it's a Lados car, which I didn't know was in NASCAR in throwback times. I thought that was a very, very new sponsor with Bubba Wallace and the 2311, but he's clearly throwing back to something, and I have to figure out what it is.
I wonder... Oh, okay. Brett Karakov wins. That's all I gotta say.
He wins the throwback contest? Side by side with him and Patrick Cowgill, not on the track, but in our little Zoom orientation here. Who do you think looks more comfortable? I think Brett looks more comfortable right now. Patrick Cowgill, he looks like he's feeling the pressure this week, at least in the lead. He's muscling that truck. Still muscling it in the lead. No trouble through turn 1. I mean, I do wonder, how long can you possibly wait to actually make the move? Because it is so tough to make the pass around here at Darlington that you do have to get aggressive early. You do have to go for the moves when they come to you, but at the same time, you do have to think, this is a 40-minute race. This is a very old track surface. It shreds the tires like mozzarella. You really don't want to go for a move too or get aggressive too early.
Yeah, not at all. And by the way, sorry for that silence. My mouse died, and that's when I used the right mouse button for our push-to-talk system. So I had to just unfortunately let that go in silence. But we're good now. No, what were you saying?
you were saying something about Brett Karakov wins, and then you killed a mouse.
Yes. Killed a mouse. Rejuvenated the mouse, and going back to Brett Karakov, that throwback scheme, it's not really much of a throwback to any particular truck, I don't believe, but it's a throwback to a company that I think anyone who races oval stocks on iRacing would be probably quite familiar with in years prior.
I don't know where you're going with this. You're gonna have to tell me the company.
I don't. It's Papyrus.
Oh, that makes sense now. The old Papyrus truck. I think Colton Easterday did tell me what this was a throwback to, but I don't remember what it is now. He's currently trying to hold off Mr. Dalton Geyer. Look at that. Click Games on the side. That's his actual sponsor. But it's a very, very simple paint scheme. Just one yellow line, and I think there's about to be a gray and black line on the right side of that truck, as I think he tapped the wall, and he's allowed Dalton Geyer to get to his inside.
I wouldn't be shocked if there's going to be one on the left side, too, as a wiggle comes to the inside down the front stretch. And, yeah, both sides. You know, the Darlington stripe is one thing, but I think people also need to remember how often these trucks hit each other because of that tight exit, especially out of 2, but really both out of 2 and 4.
I think Dalton Geyer took that throwback a little bit too literally, because the drivers of Team DDI, Panzarella and Geyer, they've literally moved the numbers back on the truck. So when we take a look at them again, you'll notice that it's a very strange format. It's a very strange numbering decision from them. But up front, the Papyrus truck still just biding his time here. It looked like he really had a chance to take the lead. It looked like he was getting aggressive, but for now...
Oh, boy!
Backing out of it, and Brendel and Hunter, I think, came together. Caution's out once more. Austin Hunter down to the bottom of the track. You saw him and Brendel both falling down the order. The caution flies for the second time tonight.
Well, we're going to catch a replay here. Look at that. That's a hard hit for Brendel. course, the 3-1-2 goes around as well. Catch back earlier in that replay. Hot Cheetos, that flaming Hot Cheetos scheme. Oh man, I can't even quite tell what happened. It almost seemed like they both broke at the same time.
Piling into each other there in turn one. Let's see it again. Brendel hits the wall, comes down a little bit after bouncing off the wall, and Hunter nowhere really to go there. Two drivers wiped out, heavy damage to both of those trucks. And up front, after a fairly long green flag stint, most drivers are coming into pit, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, Steve Loving has elected to stay out on the track, and I have a feeling he's going to regret that because literally the entire rest of the field is coming down pit road.
Oh, he's going to be eaten up alive. Oh my goodness, that's a horrible decision. Hey, maybe he's going to get there's nothing good that's going to happen here. Like,
I mean, he won last week, so he is on a little bit of a hot streak here. Maybe he's thinking, we're going to get some better luck here. We're going to get a bunch more cautions, and I'll be able to stay out, but he basically needs the rest of the race to go yellow if he wants to survive this.
Yeah. If Steve Loving is able to stay out in front due to cautions for the rest of the race, I mean, I don't even know what I'd do.
He's got a buddy, though. Robert Goff has stayed out as well. This, if both of these drivers don't come down pit road this time, this could be a very, very interesting restart as the majority of the field exits pit road. It's Cowgill winning off pit road. Karakov second, Dice third, Karakov fourth. Not much terms of change there, but suddenly they're going to find themselves with Steve Loving and Robert Goff in front of them. Robert Goff is
he's coming down
pit road, but Steve Loving, he's not ditching this strategy. He's got to stick with it.
I mean, okay. Yeah, I feel like there's always something that happens every single race that makes me just say, really?
Yep.
You sure about that? You sure about that? That's what I'm.
I think he was really desperately hoping that a few drivers behind him would stay out with him and give him a little bit of a buffer, but that has not happened to Mr. Steve Loving.
Yeah, there's no way that's ever going to happen when you're on this track. Like you said, grades like mozzarella. These tires, this rubber. I mean, 14 laps of green flag racing or something like that. That's enough for a lot of these drivers to start to feel the effects. And I know Steve Loving is either thinking to himself, great, that was a horrible decision, or actually, I feel like that's the only thing he can be thinking. To be honest, I think he needs to cut his losses and go in now. Honestly.
Well, let's see if he does it. I do have good news from the YouTube chat, by the way. A familiar name. We've had Brett Karakov and Matt Karakov in the field. Darlene Karakov has become a Race Spot member on YouTube. So the Karakov clan, they're taking over.
As it should be.
Exactly, as they should.
As they should, you know. It's
we got the Hunter dynasty in this series. We always see the Scherf family on Tuesday nights in GT3. Now the whole Karakov clan's out here supporting them.
I want a family of racers.
Get the Coils in here.
The Coils. Arjuna, our producer, in the chat.
You see, I don't subscribe to wrestling enough to even know what that
Are you Mr.
means.
McMahon?
Arjuna says I'm the Vince McMahon of Race Spot. I don't know. Does that mean I'm a Connecticut businessman who's going to go to jail for like racketeering or whatever? Didn't he go to jail?
He's not the best person.
Oh, Vince McMahon.
You're more like Dom Toretto because family.
We are family here. Vin Diesel, he was at Miami this weekend for F1, so we could definitely get Vin Diesel. That's far closer than some other people would be possible. But here we go. Steve Loving definitely regretting his decision right now to stay out under that caution, under that pit cycle. But we're going to see how long he can survive. Patrick Cowgill, to his outside, has led every single lap until that last caution came out. He's going to be searching for the lead as quickly as he can. But Steve Loving, last week's winner, takes to the green flag, and it becomes a run of survival into turn one for Steve.
I mean, he just went on the throttle like, get me out of this. it's hey, I'm honestly impressed. He's been able to keep it by 2 or 3 car lengths already out of turn 2. But how long is it going to stay? This is going to be a test here.
We say it is hard to pass at Darlington, but when a driver is on 22 lap older tires than the drivers behind him, it suddenly becomes a little bit less difficult. Loving still leads the lap, but Cowgill's to his inside into turn 1. And as easy as that, Cowgill's going to try and take it from Loving. Loving's able to fight back surprisingly well on the outside, though. Loving hangs on to the lead.
All right. Color me a little surprised.
Yeah, me too. I expect the middle of that move, I was like, all right, it's done. Wait, what? He's hanging on.
You know, you ever hear the Truly train?
The Loving train.
The Loving is...
The Loving locomotive.
Yes, there we go!
Oh, but it's been derailed now, as here comes Patrick Cowgill into turn 1 this time. Now the move is actually done. New leader, Patrick Cowgill. He's the old leader as well, as The Who once said. Well, see, here's the new boss, same as the old boss. Something like that.
You just made my whole life. I love The Who.
Yeah, I won't get fooled again.
Man, I guess the kids kind of are all right.
They are. Patrick Cowgill back to the lead. Oh, but Alan Dice, I think, just absolutely clobbered the turn 4 wall. Welcome to the club, Alan. Welcome to the club. If we see the right side of this truck, I think we're going to see a huge smear. Not much, but I think he did hit the wall.
Look at all these trucks just kind of like... You see how they're... Oh, wow, that was a big hit in the background there.
Keith Miller.
Yeah, and you see how all these trucks, what I was going to say, they get right up to the wall and they kind of fishtail a few feet off the wall at the exit. I mean, they are getting the maximum speed they can get off of each corner. It's just almost impossible to not at least once hit that wall on the exit.
Right on board here. I believe this is with Dalton Geyer. Big old clonk of the wall there. Actually, this is Keith Miller from just a moment ago. This is far more recent. Again, we said before when some other drivers hit the wall, everybody hits turn 2 or turn 4 at Darlington once in a race, or multiple times. And Keith Miller joins the club. We tune a little bit further ahead. Stacey Hunter, Pierre-Luc Ryu, Richard Pruitt. Throw a blanket over these 3 trucks, fighting over unlucky 13th for the moment.
Yeah, if you don't hit the wall at Darlington, you aren't racing, you're just driving.
I mean, sometimes I feel like that's what you need to do, but I can't switch that off. I'm always racing. I'm never driving, and the walls, they call.
I mean, now don't use it as an excuse to say that you're running fast. If you hit the wall, oh, that's a...
Brodeur.
Wow! Brother!
Oh, brother, indeed. Dominic Brodeur was down on the apron. I think he lost it coming off a 4, tried to rejoin the racing surface, and just absolutely... cleans out Oliver Goff there, hockey style. But up a little bit further ahead, speaking of big fights here, that's 27 of Steve Loving plummeting down the order. And yeah, he's in the penalty box right now because Ryan Travers dumped him out of the top 10.
Man, he's getting his bellboy rung. Well, he's going to be bell rung, but bellboy. You know, Quadrophenia and all that.
Yeah, yeah. Ace face. That's going to sting.
Oh. Right up against the wall, you see these trucks. We're kind of watching the whole Steve Loving falling back train, and while he was able to hold off for honestly an admirable amount of time, it's just not happening anymore. We're watching the 81 and the 9 Easterday and Atkins fight over 6th. They came almost together as they crossed the start-finish line with Atkins making the move just barely over Easterday. He clears him, comes up to take away the line, and I think that's going to be all she wrote for now.
By the way, Colton Easterday's truck is a throwback to Joe Bessie, who was apparently a Truck Series driver many years ago, I think in the 90s. It was a truck sponsored by the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and Colton Easterday has turned that into his own truck with his own sponsors, and I always love the obscure throwbacks. I always love the ones that are, you know, slightly off the beaten path, as he took himself off the beaten path for a moment there, hitting the wall, but the throwback's still beautiful, so everything's okay.
We need to have, like, one of those completely old and horrible competitions they used to have, but instead of judging people's beauty, we judge truck beauty.
Yes.
Throwback.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it. The truck beauty contest.
We're throwing it back to horrible things.
Best in show. I mean, like, we have the Westminster Dog Show, and how about the Westminster Truck Show?
Wow. I'm for it.
Exactly. I mean, some might say that's basically like Gymkhana. It's basically just cars doing stunts, basically the X Games, but I'm all for rewarding livery prowess, paint scheme prowess, I should say. And we got two of the best up here, with Patrick Calgill paying tribute to one of the PRL's biggest fans, and Brett Karakoff paying tribute to sim racing's past.
By the way, traffic is coming up. This is going to be one of the most difficult tracks if you catch lap traffic not down the back or the front stretch. Good job right there to get out of the way. That was Austin Hunter. The next one is going to be Oliver Golf, and that's the last one for a little bit. Garrett Austin would be the second truck to go another lap down, I should say, in line here. But they're catching up very quickly. But again, I think it's going to come just at the right time for these two competitors. Look at that run, that Karakoff. Oh, wow, that was... you want to be... Here's my thing there. He didn't do anything different. He didn't take off his line, but he had a chance to go down low on the exit. It's hard, right? Lap traffic has the right to fight. Absolutely does. It's oval racing. Oh, as we see, is this?
It's our old buddy again. It's Brodeur. And I think he may have got a little bit of help. Actually, it's Pierre-Luc Ryu, Brodeur's teammate, an identical truck, gets in the wall, and then gets a little bit of help from one of the trucks behind. It's not been a great day, unfortunately, for that Discarl and NASCAR Motorsports team. They've had some great races this season. This has not quite been one of them, with Ryu and Brodeur both running into trouble. How many cars do they even have left? Do they have any trucks left on track at all? I don't think they do. Oh, Saint-Germain's still out there. That's the one good thing.
Look at this Saint-Germain, but he has a little bit of damage himself, I believe, in his hood. Yeah, some solid damage. Nonetheless, we follow along with this battle for position number 3, I believe, from Matthew Karakoff's point of view. Dallas Sullivan, Alan Dice in front. And this is a good on-track battle. I love that cannon scheme. Oh, it's beautiful. Sometimes the classy schemes, the best throwbacks, are just when it's just a simple stripe. It is his regular scheme, by the way.
I thought you were talking about Matthew Karakoff for a moment there. Dallas Sullivan, it is his regular scheme, but it is a throwback still. It might be his regular scheme, but it's just a permanent throwback.
Permanent throwback.
I mean, there's definitely been teams that have done that before. There's been, think back to Williams Martini Racing in F1. That was basically a multi-year long throwback paint.
I feel like the Canon, like the sponsor, the camera manufacturer, I don't think that's a long time, or it has been used in a long time on a NASCAR car.
I mean, we got to bring it back. If the potential sponsors of Cowlick Racing are listening, you know who to talk to.
Hey, listen, I'm trying to get anybody from Wawa corporate.
Oh, yes.
Give me a Pocono plug, all right? I'm looking for you.
Because we always see them like on the back as like an associate sponsor, like on the Mars cars of Joe Gibbs Racing. We would see Wawa at the back of them, but I want a full Wawa car. As Colton Easterday is just getting swarmed by Zach Panzarella here. He's going to need a trip to Wawa after this. He's going to need a hoagie to calm him down, because this is the ultimate pressure from Zach Panzarella.
Yeah, he's going to need a chicken hoagie with provolone and grated Parmesan is what I'm going to say after. Oh,
barbecue sauce.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But as they exit the corner, coming down the front stretch, a little closer, I'd say, this time that Panzarella is to Easterday. Easterday doesn't really have any traffic out in front, so all of this is just pure speed from Panzarella. He's going to have an amazing run coming down the backstretch.
Keith Miller not quite having the amazing run, though. Does get out of the way of Dallas Sullivan and Alan Dice, though. In the process, puts himself in the wall. Got to look back at Colton Easterday and Zach Panzarella, though, because they're side by side again. I think Panzarella has ended up making that move, and that is the change for P8. Colton Easterday falls back into his numbered position. The number 9 does fall back to 9th. It's only fitting.
Yeah, it's only fitting, you know. If that were the case, Brett Karakoff should just have number 1 permanently.
He should.
on his
I mean,
machine.
I wish we had 57 trucks in the field.
Speaking about number one, Baron Hilton in the number one just watched as Ryan Traver just had massive damage, a massive hit into the wall. All these trucks are dealing with it. You know, this is definitely not an easy circuit. The top four they're within relatively close range with each other. It's actually nice to see. No one's able to really get away.
You know, I'm thinking about fuel right now. They came in with about 30 minutes to go. Can you make it 30 full minutes around this place without coming in for fuel, or are we going to have to think about coming in for a splash a little bit later?
Well, you got around 2 laps per minute. Yeah, they could make it. They could make it on fuel. They could make it on fuel. You know, I'll give you some fuel mileage numbers that we were looking at Dover in the Xfinity Series. I was actually being quizzed because somebody asked if Austin Hill or someone, Sheldon Creed, I think, could make it at the end of that race, and he came in with 15 laps to go. And I'm like, no, that's not even a... No, he would have had to go 100 miles, 105 miles on a single tank. That's not possible. Then they're like... Then our crew chief for the 16 says, what? All right, Dylan, what do you know about the fuel mileage numbers? I'm like, well, you can go 80 to 85 miles in a single tank of fuel. He said, okay, our numbers were 88.
Dallas Sullivan up to third. Finally was able to make that move. Alan Dice was struggling for a few laps there, and I think we are starting to see the effects of this long run. It's been 17 minutes since the caution left us, and those tires are definitely starting to fall off. Alan Dice up to falls to P4 rather. Sullivan up to P3, and look who's right ahead of him. It's Brett Karakoff. He might get 2 spots in 1 lap here as he challenges him down into turn 3. Fades up to the outside. He's going to have a run down the front straight here.
Yeah, it's going to be a really solid run down the front straight in that Cannon machine. Actually, it kind of stalled.
Stalls for just a moment, but he's still got the momentum here. Colton Easterday, as he got into trouble again with Stacy Hunter to the outside. Oh, he gets himself into trouble. Pounds the wall off of turn 2. Welcome to the club, Colton.
Yeah, it's not really an exclusive club, is it?
It's getting ever populated, and it's only going to get worse as these tires fall off more and more. As things get even tighter, but here comes Dallas Sullivan again. He's closer than he was last time, but we're seeing the realities of Darlington here. It is very, very difficult to pass. Ducks down a little bit lower off of turn 2 this time. Tries to get a run on Karakoff again, and he is much closer. He's going to be side by side with him. He's going to try and repeat what he did to Alan Dice here into turn 3. There goes Dallas Sullivan up into P2. Now can he chase Patrick Cowgill down for the win?
I think, you know what's crazy about this race? There's only 11 minutes left, right? Like, we've enjoyed a really nice run. So far, only 2 cautions. That could change. But nonetheless, this has been a really entertaining race. These trucks have been very close to each other. Going to be a decent run coming down here, down the back stretch. It had to take a little bit out of the throttle to not hit the wall there. We got some side-by-side action. Brett Karakoff and Alan Dice.
Yeah, Brett Karakoff has fallen off. That's not what I expected at all. He's usually pretty solid on the tires, but out of these top 4, he's definitely on the weakest rubber right now as Alan Dice clears him, and he gets a little bit of the wall himself for good measure. He's got a little bit of a gap back there. His brother Matt is about 2 seconds back, so he doesn't have to worry about anything for the moment, but with still 10 minutes and 30 seconds to go, that's still about 20 laps you got to survive on these tires. And if you're struggling, those are going to feel very, very long.
Yes, absolutely. It's going to feel long. By the way, Ryan Traver going into pit lane. I don't think this is a scheduled stop at all. We're seeing going down the inside here, heading into 1. Some traffic to deal with.
A little bit of a wall bonk there for Zachary Smith. But look at this gap come down. Dallas Sullivan is absolutely closing this gap down. This race is not over for Patrick Cowgill. And this race isn't over for Dallas Sullivan either. Last lap, he was half a second faster than Cowgill. I don't know if that's using up tires or just using up himself or what. As we take a look at a replay, Keith Miller here side by side with Zach Panzarella. And that comes to blows, but no caution comes out for it.
No caution at all. By the way, just over 9 minutes to go. Dallas Sullivan starting to reel Patrick Cowgill in.
Yeah, the last lap was a little bit slower. You saw Sullivan get checked up a little bit, but still 0.2 faster than Cowgill over the course of the lap. That's not just a little burst of speed from Sullivan. I think that is the tires falling off for Cowgill. And Dallas Sullivan running into a little bit of a second wind here. We take you double wide because Patrick Cowgill pulls it onto the apron, and he's coming in. That tells me that we can't make it on fuel, potentially.
I don't know. That's surprising.
Oh, but he's not coming in. That was through 1 and 2, rather. I got disoriented there. Patrick Cowgill not coming into the pits. And he's down on the apron again. Is he pitting now?
Yes.
That is so confusing.
I'll be honest, I don't get this unless everyone else comes into pit lane. I mean, again, 85 miles. You know, we were talking about fuel mileage just a little bit ago. At Dover, we could run 88 miles on a single tank of fuel. That was the fuel mileage you were getting there. So let's just say a maximum of 90 miles, right? 30 minutes of green flag action at this track is 60 laps, and that's give or take.
Cody Adkins up here in P4. This is crazy for Cody Adkins. It's crazy for Karakov too as he gets into the wall through 1 and 2. That's going to make the move a little bit easier for Cody Adkins up into P3. Adkins was almost a second faster than Brett Karakov a lap before, and he has been absolutely charging here. But I'm looking at Patrick Cowgill on pit road right now, in the box for 9 seconds. That tells me he just came in for a little bit of fuel. I don't know if everybody can't make it to the end. That tells me that I think Patrick Cowgill may have underfueled the truck.
That's what I'm thinking too. It's around an 80-mile run on green flag conditions. Yeah, that was close.
That's a swarm.
It was in a 30-minute range to end it. Yeah.
Now Sullivan in the wall, or Karakov in the wall, rather. Very, very similar looking trucks there with this Karakov throwback. But things are getting crazy here, and I think, judging by the fact that nobody else has come down pit road, Patrick Cowgill is going to be kicking himself right now. If he has thrown away a second win of his career and a very important potential win for the championship, he is not going to be a happy camper after this, but there are still 6 minutes 40 to go. We'll see if anybody else does have to bring it down. I don't know if that's going to happen, though, and the driver who's going to be very, very happy about that is Dallas Sullivan, your race leader, and Brett Karakov, your championship leader, both of whom are going to make up a ton of points on Cowgill here.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think it was a case of underfueling, which we can kind of verify if we go back and check out the times in pit road for everybody, but nonetheless, Dallas Sullivan with pretty much right now over a 2-second lead over Alan Dice and Brett Karakov. Did something happen to him?
I mean, I think the tires falling off is just what happened to Brett Karakov. He's not had the best day, unfortunately, here. Unlucky 13th now for Colton Easterday. Was running in the top 10, was having a great race, but those tires have fallen off. He's got a little bit of damage as well for good measure. Zachary Smith in the 420 trying to get by him. Goes for a little bit of a road course switchback. Can't get side by side with him just yet. Now he can with that additional straight line speed. The 420 into turn 3 is going to be able to make it side by side with Easterday, but the fight rages on. Oh, and a little bit of argy-bargy there, a little bit of contact. Colton Easterday is going to hang on. That's one way to slow yourself down, making a little bit of contact in the exit of the corner. Colton Easterday lives yet another day in P13, but there's only so long the Easterday train can live here, I think.
Yeah, I really think, I know we're watching this battle with Easterday. Karakov is saving fuel. They're going 3 wide right now.
Oh my goodness, that was Zach Panzarella down there on the bottom, backing out of it to make sure they weren't 3 wide coming into turn 1. But Brett Karakov is very, very slow right now. 33.3 on the last lap. That's 1.5 seconds slower than our race leader. You can see him lifting a little bit there, coming into 3 as well. Hilton gets through, Panzarella gets through. I almost wonder if Karakov and Cowgill were using the new auto fuel on iRacing, and that sort of miscalculated things with the caution laps we had, and it wasn't prepared for the green flag run we were having here.
going to go and check that out. I'm going to look at the replays and see what's going on, but it could have been just both of them under-fueled.
Fuel mileage race in the PRL NASCAR Truck Series. It surprises us every single week. We always get something different here. But Brett Karakoff is trying to nurse it to the end here, I think. And he's trying to make sure he can maintain as many positions ahead of Patrick Cowgill as possible. Right now, he's gaining 8 points in his championship rival still, even with this bad race. But if he does run it out of fuel, if he does fall below Patrick Cowgill somehow, this could very well end badly for him. But here comes Zachary Smith back on Easter Day. It'll be a little bit more straightforward this time around the outside into P13.
Oh, that's a beautiful truck, by the way. It's like Kevin Harvick-inspired throwback.
Yeah. 3 digits is always strange to see. It's a strange thing that we have on iRacing. I kind of wish we had it in real life. You've never seen Kevin Harvick with 3 digits, I don't think.
Specifically those ones, but nonetheless, it's a really cool looking car, truck, I should say.
Yeah. We had this debate last week with Arjuna. I think trucks are cars in a way, so it's not technically wrong.
Okay, like a square can't be a rectangle.
Exactly,
by the
that's exactly what I said.
Fair enough.
Not all cars are trucks, but all trucks are cars. I think we can say that much here. Stacey Hunter's car is very much fuller of fuel, I think we could say, than Brett Karakoff's there. Easily gets by him into turn 1. How much fuel can even be left in that tank for Brett Karakoff? There cannot be very much. I think he's in danger of falling out of the top 10 here. He's going to challenge Stacey Hunter, or at least make an attempt at challenging him, but I don't think he has the fuel to actually challenge for position. He's going to back out of it, put it P9.
Yeah, Brett Karakoff's current drop week is week 3. I wonder if this might be his new drop week. Nonetheless, you don't want to add you don't want to replace a drop week, because that means your second worst result, or your worst result, has now become your second worst and is actually being counted.
Remember our old buddy Steve Loving? He stayed out under the last caution, but he's learned as well you cannot go the entirety of this race with no pit stop.
But he almost did.
He almost did. He only needed 4 more laps of fuel, but I say only. That's far easier said than done. Steve Loving does finally bring it down pit road, and he's likely going to drop out of the top 20 here. Colton Easterday still fighting back against Dalton Geyer. They've actually both lost positions to Patrick Cowgill, who is charging forward here. Geyer and Easterday side by side into turn 1. Is Easterday going to be able to hold it around the outside? Not quite. Dalton Geyer up into P14.
Only right now 12 drivers on the lead lap as Alan Dice is going underneath Easterday.
That's not fun. If your lap traffic is racing with each other, that is not a fun thing to get through. But Alan Dice does clear Easterday, and they have separated a little bit. It should be fairly easy to get through Mr. Dalton Geyer now. This is holding up Alan Dice, but I don't think he really had a shot at catching Sullivan. He does have a shot of losing P2 to Cody Adkins, who is closing that gap down.
He's flying.
Look at this. Yeah, look at this. Dallas Sullivan in traffic, though. He's got a 3-second gap back to Dice, though. He can afford to back off a little bit here in the final 2 laps.
What he cannot afford, though, is to get involved in a mess from any of these drivers in front.
So he's not going to take the white flag this time. Next time around will be the white flag, but Alan Dice has to look in his rearview mirrors right now. Not at Dalton Geyer, but at Cody Adkins, who was 0.2 faster than him on the previous lap. You might not think that's fast enough, but if he can clear Colton Easterday, if he can clear Dalton Geyer, don't count Cody Adkins out. 4 P2 here. Hilton and Karakoff side by side. 4 P5.
Slow it down. Sullivan's going to slow it down.
He will, but Baron Hilton up into P5 there, clears Karakoff. Matthew Karakoff not as deep in the fuel save as his brother was, but definitely still saving a little bit there. White flag, though, for Dallas Sullivan. This race will not end under caution, and Dallas Sullivan basically gets to take a little bit of a victory lap here. It hasn't quite been the close to championship season he had last season, but it's still been a very strong season for him. Won his first race in the series, won his first 2 races in the series last season in his rookie season, and now he's finally going to get win number 3 for the first time in 2023 Season 2. The Cannon Truck wins. Dallas Sullivan wins at Darlington. Might not be a real throwback truck, but it's the permanent throwback truck. And who else could win on throwback weekend? Alan Dice, the second, comes home in second. Cody Adkins comes home just short in third. Don't have a podium here at Darlington, but Cody Adkins is still going to be pretty happy with that top 3. And look at this, Brett Karikoff, your championship leader. Did he miscalculate the fuel? Most likely, he comes home P10. His fellow miscalculator, Patrick Cowgill, comes home P11. So that's going to be basically no change in the championship order, in the championship separation.
Isn't it funny how that works sometimes? Where these drivers, the 2 championship competitors, they don't just mirror drive sometimes. They mirror strategy.
Oh, and by the way, 1-2 for Loaded Dice Racing there with Alan Dice and Dallas Sullivan. Very, very good for them in the team's championship, with Regan Bogue only getting as high as 6th. Cody Adkins came home in 3rd behind the Loaded Dice 1-2. Hayden Palumbo had another great race in P4. And Barron Hilton, your winner from Gateway earlier this season, up into the top 5 once again. Then it was Matt Karikoff, Zach Panzarella, Stacey Hunter, Richard Pruitt, and Brett Karikoff down to the end of the top 10. P11 went to Patrick Cowgill, who would have won the race, but miscalculated the fuel and had to come down pit road. Robert Goff and Zachary Smith were the last 2 on the lead lap, and Dalton Geyer, Colton Eastday, and CM Pennington went 1 lap down each. Steve Loving, alternate strategy didn't pay off for him. He finishes 2 laps down in 17th. Garrett Austin, Oliver Goff, and Keith Miller all ran into assorted amounts of trouble. 21st place went to Ryan Traver, and then we get into the used truck lot of trucks with heavy damage. Austin Hunter, Nicholas Saint-Germain, Pierre-Luc Rioux, Dominic Brodeur, and Thomas Brendel round out a 26-truck field here in the Truck Series at Darlington. It was a tough day for a lot of drivers, but I think for nobody was it any tougher than Patrick Cowgill. We may talk to him, but I think we're going to wait just a moment here for our race winner, Dallas Sullivan, to come in here. Here he is. Race winner, Dallas Sullivan. Welcome to the booth. First win of the season, and it seemed like you were very, very strong saving tires out there. What was the key at a place that shreds tires like this?
Man, there's nothing more than I love than a long run at Bristol. Not Bristol, Darlington. I like them at Bristol too, but Darlington's great. I love this racetrack, and I was looking forward to this all year, and just raced my own race. Didn't worry about what was going on around me. I didn't get the qualifying lap I wanted to, but it was nice to start where I did, and again, just kept the car clean. Didn't raced a little conservatively, but paid off in the end.
So it was a pretty bad race for both of your championship rivals, with Cowgill and Karikoff running out of fuel. Do you think this puts you back in championship contention with 2 weeks to go?
I sure hope so. I was looking at the points before this race, and I was like, after the drop week kind of hurt me a little bit, it seemed like, and but I saw teammate Allen P2, buddy Cody P3, and then I saw they put a little gap on Karikoff. He finished 6th, so yeah, good race for that. That's great. I don't know what happened to Patrick. He pitted from the lead. I don't know if he didn't take fuel or something on that first caution, or what the situation was there. I was looking forward to racing him a little bit, but things happen, so take the win.
Well, Dallas, congrats on that first win of the season, and we'll see you next week at North Wilkesboro.
Absolutely. Thanks, Joey. Y'all have a nice night.
Dallas Sullivan, your winner tonight at Darlington, and we've got his teammate here as well. Alan Dice may have come home in second, but that's a 1-2 finish for Loaded Dice Racing. Got to feel pretty good about that in the team's championship.
Yeah, definitely happy with that finish. I slipped up a little bit through 1 and 2, and Dallas had a run. I just kind of moved over and said, go. I'm not going to slow us both up. So he did a good job. He saved his stuff a little bit better, and we were able to pull it off. Kind of 1, 2, 3. We're good buddies with Cody Atkins and the BTDY guys, so that felt good. Have us all on the podium.
It seemed like you guys were all celebrating those donuts with each other. But next week is North Wilkesboro, sort of a second throwback week of sorts. It's another short track. How do you think that's going to go next week?
Yeah, I might keep the Tide ride for that one, actually. But I'm a big fan of North Wilkesboro. That's one of my favorite tracks. Dallas is the same way. So should be a lot of fun. Hopefully it's a good, clean race. We've had a couple in a row now, so maybe we're getting it back together.
Well, Alan, congrats on second. Congrats on the 1-2, and we'll see you in the Tide ride back next week.
Sounds good. See ya.
Alan Dice, P2, and one more driver to talk to. Not officially a Loaded Dice Racing teammate, but maybe unofficially a teammate, Cody Adkins. Another top 3 for you this season in that Taco Bell truck. Talk us through that run at the end. Seemed like your tires survived pretty well.
Yeah, I knew I knew wasn't going to have first place pace, but I knew if I keep the tires under and not burn them off on the long run, I would at least have pace for the whole long run, and I could pick them off one by one as we went through.
You think you can get the win at North Wilkesboro next week in Throwback Part 2?
Unfortunately not. We're not scheduled to run next week, unfortunately.
Boo hiss. Well, Cody, we'll see you. I mean, you do have a poll this season, so we'll see you when we next see you, but congrats on third tonight, and we'll see you when we see you.
Yes, appreciate you.
Colton Easterday, geez, Cody Adkins, rather. P3, Dylan. I'm getting all my C names confused. Luckily, we're going to a D name, or an N name, rather. North Wilkesboro next week. Going a little bit north from South Carolina to North Carolina, and like I said, it's Throwback Week Part 2.
Yeah, not that much more north, I'll say for sure. I'm really excited to see these trucks here. I really wish the Xfinity Series was going there too, but nonetheless, it's going to be a lot of fun. North Wilkesboro is, both in person, it's going to be so incredible to see, and this is going to kind of serve as an appetizer for what the Real World Cup Series and Truck Series will do.
We hope you'll join us then for a little bit of North Wilkesboro action. We hope you'll join us for Charlotte Motor Speedway, the championship finale, after that as well. But we've got even more racing coming up here tonight because we cannot go to North Wilkesboro just yet. We've got to stay in Darlington for a few more moments because it's PRL NASCAR Xfinity Series time. It's a little bit higher caliber of a field, a little bit more experienced of a field, and we can expect some long runs here. A 50-minute race for the PRL NASCAR Xfinity Series. Now, when we take a look at the schedule here, Dylan, it's not going to look completely identical because we do go to Darlington, we sync up this week, but as you said, next week we travel off to Texas, and then we sync back up again for Charlotte Motor Speedway. But it's a pretty crazy season. It's been a pretty crazy season so far. We've had some great races so far, and it's been Richard Regan Jr. pretty solid at every single type of track.
Yeah, he's been really solid this year. Abner Acosta has also been as solid as can be. Currently, those are the top two in the practice session with Danny Cervantes just behind. But yeah, Texas is going to be next weekend. I'll be honest, I really want to see the North Wilkesboro. So a little disappointed to see that. I think some of the drivers are going to some are going to appreciate it more just because Texas is maybe not as much of a challenge that North Wilkesboro will be with the experience. And at the same time, I think that the finale at Charlotte, that's a perfect location to have a finale. Just works in the real world schedules really, really well. So excited to see what goes on there. And yeah.
Let's take a look at those driver standings. I mentioned Richard Regan Jr. for a very good reason because this has been a dominant season for me. A dominant season for him. 291 points, 4 wins on the season, 5 wins actually, if I'm not mistaken. I gotta check my numbers there. Yeah, 5 wins in 7 races. Abner Acosta did pick up one of those wins, and he's been keeping him company generally, but just hasn't quite been able to have the same winning pace as Richard has. Then Jeff Evans sits third, 1 point ahead of his teammate Bradley Holly, Danny Cervantes P5, and last season's champion Elliott White hasn't quite had the form every week. He sits in P6, right ahead of Thomas Sink. Colton Lane, Adam Zemke, and Jim Westerfield round out the top 10 in the driver's standings. In the team's championship standings, things are similarly not close, with Regan Bogue Motorsports with Richard Regan Jr., Danny Cervantes, and Reese Bogue dominating the point standings there. Regan Precision Racing Esports, rather, second with Acosta and White, 30 points behind. Only 4 points ahead of Whataback Overdrive, so that's going to be quite the fight for fourth there. Then it's 2 more Whatabacks down to fifth. Car Ramrod, Bull Creek Racing make a sandwich out of Ride and Shotgun Motorsports, and then YS Motorsports rounds out the end of the top 10. But unfortunately, before we can get into qualifying here, we have a little bit of a somber note here as the drivers prepare for a salute for one of the biggest fans, one of the biggest supporters of Whataback Racing and the PRL. Whataback Racing released a statement on Twitter, and I will read that for you here. This week, Whataback Racing is mourning the loss of one of our biggest fans, Perry Westerfield. Born March 20th, 1959, Perry grew up in Benton Harbor, Michigan. Years later, he met his wife of 40 years, Joy, through mutual friends. They gave birth to Jim, their only son. Perry was a truck driver, but in his downtime, he molded his family and raised Jim to love cars. Perry taught Jim the ins and outs, developing a loving bond that would be unbreakable. Jim describes his dad as a loving father and a husband with a fiery passion for classic cars. Perry's collection of classic automobiles included a 1968 Buick Electra, a 69 Buick Skylark GC convertible, a 69 GTO, and a 70 GTO Judge. His favorite was the 1976 Buick Rivera. That's the car Perry would light up for. Perry was a NASCAR fan. He watched weekly, rooting on Dale Sr. till his passing, and afterward, Jim said Perry watched but didn't have a specific driver anymore. He just wanted to see Chevy win every single week. Over the past couple of seasons, Perry became an avid fan of Whataback racing here in the PRL. He watched his son Jim Westerfield rise through the field, being a contender every single week. Jim told everybody last week how proud Perry was of everybody at the PRL and Whataback, naming them individually. It was an emotional discussion, pulling on all of their heartstrings. Perry is loved and deeply missed, and this is a race for the Westerfields. You see Jim Westerfield leading the field here in a 3-wide salute around Darlington, one of the classic NASCAR tracks, and we'll let the engines do the rest of the talking here as the drivers of the PRL pay tribute to Perry Westerfield. And as has become a tradition in the PRL, all tributes have to end with a little bit of smoke flying, a little bit of a demolition derby, reminding us that we are all racing fans. We all do love seeing a little bit of carnage, and we all love seeing a little bit of action. So this is all in tribute to one of the PRL's greatest supporters, and everybody burning it down in unison, Dylan. This shows us how much of a community we do have here at the PRL.
I'm not sure if you could hear any of the driver audio during that tribute, but wow, it's you wouldn't be blamed if you got filled up there with Jim, you know, telling everyone that he loved watching everyone race and to give this a great show. You make him proud, have fun, man.
We are certainly making it proud. They're certainly having fun here on the front straight. I don't think I've seen so much smoke at Darlington in a very long time. I'm surprised the engines are still holding up here. This is a beautiful tribute here. Everybody's still doing donuts. A couple drivers ended up back on pit road, but we're going to race tonight in Perry Westerfield's honor. As we always say, the heat goes on, and that's the way everybody wants it. We will race again here. We'll get into qualifying in a matter of moments here, but I don't think we're done with our donuts yet. There's still some juice left in these cars.
We still got a minute and 15 seconds left.
Yeah. Got to milk every donut you can get. You can still see the smoke rising, even from this helicopter view. We're basically in North Carolina here, and I can still see some smoke on the front straight.
I don't think we're basically in North Carolina. I think that view is North Carolina.
It might just be. Yeah, they're still going.
Oh.
Daniel Knight getting on the scene there. This is how you do a tribute. This is how we do a tribute PRL style. This is beautiful. Oh, Danny Cervantes next on the scene. Here we go. Kablam!
You know, it's a really good thing that these cars are virtual.
It is. It is. There's still some. Oh, you see that car flying there on the bottom. We are in North Carolina right now, but I think you can still see that. That looked like a rocket there. I don't know who that was. But yeah, as everybody in the chat says, as every one of the drivers says, this is for Perry. This is exactly the kind of thing he loved. He loved seeing everybody have fun with the virtual world here on iRacing, and we are certainly living up to that. As you see Reese Bogue here in his throwback paint scheme. He's showing everybody up. He's going to get a 10 for these donuts. That's an incredible burnout.
And wow, that was just cool. And yeah,
Charles Sumner on the scene as well. But I think the session has officially switched over, and what better way to pay tribute to one of the biggest supporters of PRL racing than to go PRL racing. It's qualifying time, and now the drivers are on the clock here. You get 5 minutes of open qualifying, 2 potential laps. The question is, do you go out instantly, or do you wait a little bit later? I don't know what the track temps are looking like right now, but Chris Justice says things aren't getting any cooler anytime soon. It's 117 degrees Fahrenheit. Things are only getting hotter. I'm going out early.
yeah, I think sometimes it's easy for drivers to get in their own head. Just go out, set the fastest lap time. Don't worry about going out a minute later or something like that.
There's the heart monitor for Chris Justice. Remember, Chris was a Truck Series driver for the past season and a half, but midway through the season, he said, you know what? I'm interested to try out the Xfinity Series. I'm going to move up here, and he's had a few good runs so far this season. He's certainly been holding the pace here. He doesn't look like he's very affected by any stress or so. He looks pretty calm face-wise, but the heart rate monitor doesn't lie. We can never count out the EKG.
I mean, it did kind of lie the other week.
I mean, it did when it was at 0, but that's 126, 127. I have a feeling we'll see that get a little bit higher once the race start comes around.
Maybe, or it'll just go down lower and we're going to question if he's
That is
a
possible.
vampire or not.
Matt Gagnon up to the top of the table. Daniel Knight, P2 after him. Chris Justice, P3 on that lap number 1. Here is the number 14 of Matt Gagnon. Can he improve on lap number 2? Remember, we saw our pole sitter Patrick Cowgill improve on lap 2. And we'll see if he can improve on lap 2 here in the Xfinity Series. Jeff Evans is going to cross the line for his second lap. Qualified second last week. Puts it on pole this week for the moment.
Jeff Evans had a fantastic scheme last week. I'm really upset that I missed it.
Yeah, those Whataback guys, they certainly deliver paint scheme-wise. Unfortunately, Jeff Evans has not delivered pole-wise. Elliott White has taken over that top spot. Adam Zemke is going to stay P5. Here is our current pole sitter, Elliott White. Is he going to get a little bit greedy on lap 2 and improve? Seems pretty clean through turns 3 and 4. Keeps it close to the white line. No drifts to be seen off of turn 4. Can Elliott White improve on a 30.3? Yes, he can. It's a 30.25.
That's a really solid time right there for Elliott White. Currently sitting in P1 by over a tenth of a second over Jeff Evans. Reese Bogue, let's see what his time, a 35.66. Good for 8th.
Zabner, 1/10 of improvement, so there is definitely improvement on the second laps here, but it's just a question of how do you beat Elliott White's time? This guy has spent so much time in this Xfinity car, whether it's in the iRacing NASCAR College Series, whether it's in the PRL. He is a very strong driver as Richard Regan Jr. gets a drift on out of turn 2. It looks spectacular, but typically going for a four-wheel drift around Darlington is not the fastest way around here.
Yeah, but it's the coolest look away.
Here he comes off a turn 4. I think he hit the wall there. He does improve, though. Is it going to count? Yes, it does. Richard Regan Jr. with a four-wheel drift and a wall tap off a turn 4. Still manages to put it on pole, and his teammate Danny Cervantes makes it a Regan Bogue 1-2.
Well, that is just incredible.
Few more drivers crossing the line here. Bradley Holly puts it P4, but before we get into the grid in about a minute's time, as the final drivers set their qualifying lap times, we may want to give a chance to Austin Hunter if he comes back here. We believe there's it's another tribute in hand for a member of the Hunter family. So when we get to talk to Austin Hunter, we will, potentially on the pace laps in a couple of moments. But Thomas Sink crosses the line. Big improvement for him. 2/10. Jumps him up into the top 5. Good day for Whataback with 2 drivers in the top 5.
You know, what a great qualifying for Whataback. I will say, what a weird scheme we've got going on for Terry Radford once we see him at the grid. It's going to be a mix of 2 rivals in the 90s.
And down in P18, unfortunately for Terry, he's going to be disappointed with that qualifying. Behind Nick Hunter, also, by the way. But that is everybody. There's a few drivers who I believe were disallowed from qualifying. I'm going to check the logs here. Let's see. Let's check the Charles Sumner stewarding decisions from last week. Mark Kalin still disallowed from qualifying. Didn't get a second race ban, but did get disallowed from qualifying. There are 3 other drivers who just simply elected not to qualify. But qualifying has come to an end. The 5-minute window is over, and it is gridding time. It's time to do the griddy. And so often we start the grid with Richard Regan Jr., and so often we say his name again. For the 22nd time on Wednesday nights, it's Richard Regan Jr. on pole in the Xfinity Series. His teammate Danny Cervantes starts to his outside, then it's Elliott White and Bradley Holly on row number 2. Thomas Sink starts P5 alongside Abner Acosta. An unlucky 7th, potentially, went to Jeff Evans, who showed some reasonable pace early on in the session. Same throwback as Matt Karakoff, by the way. He starts alongside Chris Justice, and then it's Matt Gagnon and Adam Zemke down to the end of the top 10. Daniel Knight starts alongside Jeff's dad, Doug Evans, then it's Reese Bogue and Colton Lane. Mike Knight and Jacob Emery on row number 8, and then Nicholas Hunter outqualifies Terry Radford for P17. Then Jeremy Bailey, P19, he was the last driver to set a qualifying lap time. Then Sumner, Lawrence, and Westerfield all elected not to set qualifying lap times. Mark Kalin disallowed from qualifying. Let's take a look at the grid of Zoomers here. We got Mark Kalin down there on the bottom left, Holly on the bottom right, Justice, Bailey, Evans, Radford, Regan, and a whole host of drivers on here with Zoom, or on here with us on Zoom. So we thank them for their participation there. We're going to get going here in a matter of moments, but we're going to quickly drag Mr. Austin Hunter in here, because it has been a race of tributes here, and it's a family affair in the Hunter family with Austin and Nick. Your mom's always watching in the chat as well, so Austin, I cede the floor to you.
Yeah, I just want to take a second. First off, appreciate you guys, say thoughts out to Jim and his dad, and the rest of the Waterback team, but Nick and I lost our grandmother this week. My mom's mom. I know she's watching, so I just want to make sure I give a special shout out to my mom, and as we miss my grandma dearly, thoughts out to Dixie.
Well, Austin, our condolences for your loss, and the Hunter family, one of the great supporters of the PRL, with you and Nick racing here, with your mom always watching in the chat, so thank you for all of your support, and we'll race in your grandmother's honor tonight as well.
Thank you guys, I appreciate it.
Austin Hunter, Truck Series driver, brother of Nick Hunter, and most importantly, I think a grandson here. But it's been a throwback weekend here, Dylan, but more importantly, it has been a tribute weekend to so many people, because the PRL is not possible without the friends and family, the community that's been formed here. And every single time, every single season, the PRL definitely makes it known. This is not just a racing league. This is not just a group of people who race with each other. This is absolutely a community. And there is a deep connection between every single driver. And there's about to be a deep connection on the track between every single one of them, because as always, we go racing PRL Xfinity style on Wednesday night. It's Richard Regan Jr. on pole once more, and the green flag awaits him for the 22nd time on Wednesday nights. It's throwback time in Xfinity, and we're racing again at Darlington. Unlike in the Truck Series, clean through turns 1 and 2, but look at Bradley Holly side by side with his teammate Thomas Sink into turn 3. These Xfinity cars are a little bit wider than the trucks, so you do have to be a little bit more careful giving your teammates room, but everybody's made it through lap 1, or at least they did, as Doyle Lawrence goes for a drift over turn 4. He keeps it pointed straight though, so no caution.
What a save right there. That was really impressive. Man, I don't know how he did not put that into the wall. You see, again, everyone snaking from the exit. Seems like these cars are currently really comfortable with the tires pretty much being stickers right now. That's going to fall off very quickly.
Look at this Hornet's Nest a little bit further back in the field. We're going to ride on board with Doyle Lawrence as he sees the Hornet's Nest ahead of him and then seemingly loses it himself, I think, through 3 and 4. Down to the bottom underneath Charles Sumner, and then goes for a little bit of a loop-de-loop there. Danny Cervantes didn't have the best lap 1. Lost out to Elliott White there, who started 3rd and that is sometimes an advantage. When you have somebody like Richard Regan Jr. on pole who really likes to jump the starts, basically. Not to jump the starts, but he gets very early starts. If you're in third, it's very easy to take advantage of second in a situation like that.
I'd almost always rather be third on start than second, to be honest, just because of that reason.
You would think the two teammates would be syncing up a little bit, but Danny didn't quite get the start he needed there, so he's going to slot back into third. We look a little bit further back as the throwback paint of Jeff Evans battles the non-throwback Tommy's Pub paint of Daniel Knight. Evans a little bit high through the middle of the corner. Daniel Knight a little bit more in the middle. We've seen a lot of those multiple grooves of Darlington. You might think with such a tight track it's a single groove racetrack, but you see everybody running all sorts of assorted lines around this place, and I don't think anybody actually knows which one's the fastest.
I don't think we'll know either for around 20 to 30 laps either.
You see some guys run in the middle. You see some guys who like to run the Kyle Larson line and rip the top. Some guys like to stick to the bottom. Some guys do a diamond. It's you're going to have to call a department of geometry here. We're going to have to call a mathematician.
Can we just talk about Terry Radford's because it's really bugging me.
I think it's behind the Hot Wheels paint scheme of Nicholas Hunter. There it is.
Here's the reason it's bugging me.
It's Jeff Gordon in the 3.
Exactly. And is that a Hulkmania costume he's got on?
It is, and there's a...
Oh
my
goodness.
It's a nice soda sponsor behind him as well, so we're... This is a multiverse of craziness here. We're combining 4 different worlds.
You
and
could
he
say it's
is
a multiverse of madness.
It might just be, and he's about to get his world rocked right here because he has a train behind him of Doug Evans, Mark Kalin, Charles Sumner, Jim Westerfield, and even Jacob Emery behind him. It is it's not a truly train, it's a Terry train as you see Colton Lane getting a little bit of a drift on off of turn 2.
Might be a Colton Lane train now. If Terry Radford can catch up, as well as Jeremy Bailey, who also got into the wall. Oh, Terry got that stripe. 98 gets the stripe right there as well.
Oh, he's going to get another one right here. Well done for him to back out of that, but Mark Kalin gets by in the Michael Waltrip throwback. Jim Westerfield's going to clear Sumner as well. Emery's going to clear Sumner as well. With the Sim Motion car. That looks a little bit like a throwback car. That is a modern sponsor, but that kind of throws me back to Netscape a little bit. Speaking of throwback here, Matt Gagnon. This is very much not a NASCAR sponsor, but it is very much a throwback sponsor in the Golf-esque Supra.
McLaren called.
And it's RaceSpot sponsored, so we have to be biased towards it.
That's true. We do have to be biased, and we will spare no expense.
Those tricky tricksters. Matt Gagnon, he's really figured us out. He's figured out that all you have to do is put RaceSpot in the side of your car, and suddenly you get all sorts of compliments, and you even get the fancy onboard camera here.
Hey, I put RaceSpot on the side of my car for years in another series, and I was just teased.
I mean, that sounds like
I guess you got to race.
Sounds like a skill issue, Dylan. Skill
That's what
issue.
I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. Sounds like you got to race well.
Exactly. Matt Gagnon's had a good season this season, making his PRL debut this season. He's had a couple of top 10s, had a couple of good runs. We'll be looking for him, I think, later on in the tire run. He's usually pretty good at saving those tires. Speaking of being pretty good at saving tires, look at these top 2, Richard Regan Jr. and Elliott White. It's going to be tough to beat Richard Regan Jr. around here. I remember last season, the opening round of the season, it was Richard Regan Jr. versus one of the best drivers on iRacing, Sean Campbell, who raced in the PRL Xfinity Series last season. They ran into each other a couple of times. They ruffled each other's feathers, but it was Richard Regan Jr. who came out on top. So beating him at Darlington, that is a very, very tough task.
I feel like if you're good at Darlington, you are almost one of the best drivers in that car, because it's a track that exposes the weaknesses of everyone in a specific car that they're racing in. Does that make sense?
Sort of, I think, potentially.
Like, if you're good at Darlington in an Xfinity Series car, you're going to be good anywhere in an Xfinity Series car.
It's like the ultimate challenge.
Right, exactly. Like, it's... If you're bad at Darlington, well, to me, it's the hardest track in NASCAR, to be honest.
Darlington is like the street circuit of ovals, I think, because the walls are so close. That. It's a thin racing surface. I think I don't know why people haven't said that before. It's like the Monaco of ovals,
The Monaco of ovals.
except you can actually pass.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So it's more like the Long Beach of ovals.
That's fair as well. But, I mean, yeah, you're right. Long Beach is a great race.
It is. Bradley Holly here in a not a real throwback, or not a real life throwback, I should say, but this is an iRacing throwback. This is the Cup Series car that Bradley Holly ran many, many seasons ago with a popular Texas burger chain on the side that sounds a little bit like Whataback. He's thrown it back to a couple of seasons ago.
I bet you he just loaded it up in Journey Paints, and we were all good to go. He was like, yeah, let's...
in the PSD files.
Yes.
Check,
Look at this gaggle of cars.
Oh my goodness, there's a couple of geese back here. Mark Kalin, Jeremy Bailey, Jim Westerfield. Jeremy Bailey gets into the wall a little bit. He doesn't look too perturbed about it, though, himself. Looks like he's wearing a barbecue restaurant hat, so he's just trying to make me hungry in the middle of this broadcast to distract me from the wall tap. Here's Jacob Emery. Not a memory, but my memory was not good because we saw Jacob Emery in the Zoom array at the start of this broadcast, and I didn't recognize who it was because Jacob Emery is a very, very new Zoomer to us, so I got to remember his face here, and I got to remember those party lights behind him. It's like Brett Karikoff as Jeremy Bailey gets into the wall through 1 and 2, or through 3 and 4, rather, and Emery gets into the back of him.
Jacob's also got to remember camera placement.
He does. I was so distracted by those lights, but unfortunately for him, Jeremy Bailey was right ahead of him, and it's the Long Beach of ovals. You can do nothing to avoid it.
Yeah. Is that where we're going with it now? You know, it's...
I'm going to coin it.
How about it's the Darlington of Darlington?
The Darlington
How about we just
of Darlington.
call it... How about we just... I got a great name for this. It should be called the Track Too Tough to Take.
Oh, wow, that's...
Original.
I'm surprised they haven't thought of that yet.
Yeah, you know.
You know, I think...
Lady in Black is another good
They
name.
should call it the Lady in Black.
We're so smart.
We are. I mean, hire us for your PR positions. But here comes Reese Bogue in the next gaggle. It's a gaggle fest out here. It is absolutely a gaggle fest here because Adam Zemke's on the charge. Saw Reese Bogue doing some spectacular burnouts earlier, but spectacular burnouts they may be. You don't want to be burning out right now.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm really impressed. Like, I think it's understated how well Chris Justice is adapting to the Xfinity Series. He's in the top half of the runners in this Xfinity race. Right now, he is battling with Gagnon for that position number 11. Oh, and they come together!
A little bit of contact there between Matt Gagnon and Mike Knight, or between Chris Justice, rather. All these throwback paint schemes. This is, we're commentators, Dylan, so we're not very smart. We get used to our paint schemes, and then everybody changes them up, and suddenly we forget who's who. But Chris Justice in the Days of Thunder-esque throwback, if I'm thinking correctly here. Days of Thunder versus Gulf, two not real NASCAR throwbacks, and I like that. That's creative.
You see the Herbie Fully Loaded?
I did see
throwback.
that. Emerlin Gase.
Amazing.
There's some great throwbacks in this field. There's the Hardys throwback for Jim Westerfield a little bit deeper in the field. There's Richard Regan Jr. up here, who is in a throwback car. It's very strange to see Richard Regan Jr. in a red and white car, and then we see Elliott White going Bubba Wallace mode or going Kyle Busch mode from a season ago. No throwbacks, just the usual paint scheme.
Or Kyle Busch throwing it back to his first ever Richard Childress Racing win, which was 2 months ago.
That too.
Hoping you guys don't look at calling racing schemes this week.
I haven't yet, but just because you said that, if we get a caution a little bit, or if we get a little bit of separation, I am pulling up the Cowlick Racing Twitter account.
Yeah, just do that. That'll be funny.
But look at this for a little bit of a split screen here. The battle for the lead between Regan and White. The battle for fourth between Holly and Acosta. Cannot keep those pesky Precision Racing Esports drivers off you, as Elliott White tries to challenge for the lead, and Abner Acosta tries to challenge his old buddy Bradley Holly for fourth. It's a huge plume of smoke down the back straight there. That's Jeremy Bailey around. No caution, though, because he's off the racing surface.
Yeah, no caution there. It's going to... listen, we've got 3 races left, including this one. Abner Acosta is not in the position right now he needs to be to even remotely come back into this title fight. He's got to be beating Richard Regan at every race, and Regan's got to be falling multiple positions behind. It's just not happening right now. I mean, we could be in a position where, by Charlotte, championship could already be completely theirs. We see there was an overcorrection.
Getting a little bit floaty and boaty there off of turn 2. And he unfortunately realizes the harsh realities of Darlington, that with this massive asphalt apron, if you spin or wreck in a 1-car accident here, it's basically guaranteed to not be a caution. So you're screwed. I
feel like if it's an asphalt, I don't know. I agree and I don't agree at the same time. The backstretch is really hard. I mean, as a lifelong Jimmy Johnson fan, seeing him wreck in the first race out of the COVID issue was not fun. As maybe a move here in turn 3 and 4. No, maybe a run for Acosta. But seeing him wreck, just lose it himself, kind of hits a lapped car, goes right into the inside wall on the backstretch. Nothing you can do there. On the front stretch, it depends the angle of the spin off the corner. If you're like in a 180 already, it might be okay to not hit the wall. Asphalt, I'd rather spin on asphalt than grass.
I mean, it sounds like you're going into the Formula 1 track design business there. So we'll get to...
It's true. It's a better method of slowing the car down. Even though it doesn't necessarily lead to as much, regret.
So what are you thinking right now if you're Elliott White? You're riding behind Richard Regan Jr. You know he's going to be almost impossible to beat around here. Are you just riding around here basically and then hoping to save a little bit until pit stops come around in maybe 10 minutes time?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I would be doing, Joey. Like, this is there's no need to push the tires right now. We might get into a very long green flag run if we don't have multi-car incidents. We already had a single car one, but no caution flew from that around 14 minutes into this race.
Here comes Abner. Side by side with Holly into turn 1. They make contact. Abner Acosta puts Bradley Holly in the wall. And Holly is not going to be happy about that one.
He isn't.
He is not. Abner and Richard Regan Jr., I believe, got into a little bit of argy-bargy last week. They weren't too happy about that. And Bradley Holly, I mean, he doesn't look too mad. He looks like normal Bradley Holly, but I have a feeling on the inside he's wishing he could get to the back bumper of Abner.
He kind of looks like Obi-Wan Kenobi. And Obi-Wan didn't really show anger, so...
True.
He might... You know what? He really wishes that iRacing was more like a NASCAR 2004, 2005 chase for the cup game with the Intimidator button.
You missed last week, Dylan.
No.
There were a couple of Star Wars references, and I was bullied because I called it a Disney entertainment product. Terry Radford's been our entertainment product here. He gets a little bit loopy off of turn 2. He did that in practice as well, and this time he clonks the inside wall, and he's taking a tow back to the pits.
I'm actually really sad because he had a great run so far. No.
I mean, I don't remember where he was running. I think he was around the back of the field at that point.
He was running cleanly.
He was running cleanly, and for Terry, that's an accomplishment there. But unfortunately, I think we'll see him back out there. But he did have to take a tow, so he'll be back out to cause a little bit more entertainment there as a lap car. Elliott White is keeping with Richard Regan Jr. up here, and I think that's critical. It's a question of, is he pushing to keep up with Regan, or is he backing off a little bit to keep simultaneous in the rhythm with him? If we see him start to fall off in about 5 minutes' time, I think that means he's probably used up his stuff, but I don't think he has. It seems like they're pretty equal right now.
I mean, if anything, we know he's not using more than Richard Regan. That's for sure is Regan. You saw a little bit of a wiggle. He put some slip angle into that to make it around that corner, but hey, I guess loose is fast, right?
I mean, he showed us that in qualifying. I expected that mistake from him, that four-wheel drift on lap 2 to take him out of contention for pole, but he only went faster. He's breaking all the laws of physics here.
I think this is as close as Elliott White has ever been, and he is just kind of feathering that throttle. But he is taking a peek.
He took a little peak load there within 1/10 of a second, if for but a second. Let's take a look back to Mr. Danny Cervantes, though, back in P3. Abner Acosta chasing him down. There was a little bit of a joke last week after the race. Abner was talking about, hey, let's do a Spanish language broadcast of the PRL with me and Danny. If they do that, if they do sign up for that and do a translated broadcast for the PRL on Wednesday nights, that's one way to get in the Race Spot good books.
¿Tú hablas un poco de español?
Nada.
Good. Good answer. Good answer.
The American education system, I took Spanish from 4th grade to 11th grade, and I remember 0 of it.
Well,
or should I say, 0 of it.
Very good. This battle up front, I think, is about to get loco, to be honest.
Muy loco.
Muy loco. As a car goes off in front. I'm not sure if that was shown in the angle that we've seen.
I think that was Bailey coming out of the pits.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, Regan is starting to lose control of this car. The tires are definitely warm. It's melting off. Warm is an understatement, by the way. We're on 33 laps of green flag racing. That's around 80-something miles. They're gonna have to pit very soon, I think.
Track temp has gotten a little bit cooler, though. We've lost 6 degrees. It's past over 4 p.m., but it is still 3 digits. So when we talk about the track getting cooler, from 117 to 111, that's not much respite. That's still very, very hot.
By the way, I can't do math. It's 1.3333333 times 34 now. Yeah, times 34 now. That's like 50-something miles, 60 miles, so not 80 miles. We still have around 15 or so laps, I think, before we start looking at pit stops at the earliest. But again, Elliott White is just kind of biding his time, and I love this strategy. Just no need to force anything. He is looking down low, though. Maybe it's time. He's at the quarter panel. No, I think
turn 1.
I don't know. I think
he's there to the inside of Richard Regan Jr. Regan's going to have the momentum. He's going to have the run on the top, but Elliott White takes a look for the first time off of 4. Loses out with Regan getting the momentum down the front straight, but that was the first attempt from Elliott White, and I have a feeling it's not going to be the last one.
He took a look. He didn't just buy into it. He rented that space for a bit and decided to return it to Blockbuster.
I think he's about to sublet that space again here into turn 3. He's going to try it again. Not going to happen, though. Regan hangs on up on the top. You see a little bit further back in the background. Abner Acosta and Danny Cervantes side by side. White and Regan side by side. But White has to slot back in line, while Abner Acosta is going to have a shot here into turn 1. Backs out of it, though.
Did you miss my Blockbuster reference?
I think I did.
Man, it's throwback night, man.
Do they still have that one in Alaska open?
They is it Oregon or Alaska?
I think it's Alaska, but I think it may have closed.
No, don't tell me that.
Have we lost the last Blockbuster? Even if we have, we have a Blockbuster here with us right now, so it's okay. We got a Blockbuster of a race.
We do.
It's about to get very interesting. Look at this. Jacob Emery up ahead. Mark Kalin up ahead, who has somehow acquired damage. We didn't see that. Those are 2 drivers fighting for position. They have no real reason to let Regan or White by, but even if they do, it's very hard to pass lap traffic at Darlington if you reach them at the wrong place.
Side by side. They're going side by side into 3.
It's the sidest by side White has been, but into turn 3 again. He's only able to get about a quarter panel in to Richard Regan Jr., and then that outside run holds tough for Regan, but this time White is able to hang on to the littlest bit of the side draft down the front straight. For the first time, he's able to attempt to run side-by-side into turn 1, but he still loses out. It is tantalizingly close for Elliott White, but Richard Regan Jr. is making that the widest Supra in the world.
Listen, if White wants this position, he'll take it. He's the faster car. He has the faster car right now. He is driving this track better. But, I mean, I don't know. I just think biding your time right now, waiting until maybe after pit stops might be the way to go. And look, you got 2 lap cars in front who are fighting for position. Maybe use one of them as a pick.
Maybe add a little bit of an extra corner here to Darlington with the lap traffic. That's a strategy that works sometimes. As we do see Abner Acosta here trying to get Danny Cervantes again. It's deja vu. It's Regan Bogue Motorsports versus Precision Racing Esports 1 and 2. Then it's Regan Bogue Motorsports versus Precision Racing Esports 3 and 4. It's a team battle that's been going on all season long. It's a team battle that's been going on all race long. And Abner Acosta's been having even tougher of a time trying to get by Danny Cervantes, who gets a little bit loose off at turn 4 and still holds Abner back.
Yeah, Abner's going to get a little bit of a run here, but I'm more interested in what's going on up front because this is wild right now. They're side by side with lap cars.
Yeah, Costa files back, but here we go. Jacob Emery out of the way. Regan and White get through him. A little bit high for Regan, though. Almost gets into the wall, and next up it's going to be Mark Kalin with damage. You would think that would be an easy car to pass on the straights, as here comes Regan to the inside into turn 1. Kalen's going to back out of that, but he's going to pull down right in front of Elliott White. No, that's going to make Regan Jr. very, very thankful.
If I'm Elliott White, I don't cut him a single bit of slack. Oh, now, he knew he messed up his line going into 1. Said, sorry.
So we're almost to halfway in the race right now. About 3 minutes, we'll be at exactly halfway. If you're Elliott White, do you go for the undercut here? Do you come in early, get that track position on those fresh tires, or are you going to wait for as long as possible and hope that a caution might come out and save you there and not make you have to take the risk if you come in early?
Nah, I think you try and split it in half. And here's the reasoning why. While they could go maybe 5 to 10 minutes more on fuel and wait it out, you have to apply strategy as if the entire rest of the race goes green. And the optimal strategy in that case is going around halfway.
Look at Abner Acosta going full drift in the background there. He is throwing everything at Danny Cervantes for third, but still nothing coming from that. Elliott White up front has been able to close that gap back down. Those 2/10 he lost behind Kalin have been decimated. He's right there with Regan, but it is so hard to pass around Darlington. We're learning that firsthand here.
Man, Xfinity cars at Darlington, it's literally one of the best combinations in NASCAR. I would say it's top 5 easily. One of the best combinations of car and track.
It's definitely exciting to watch. If you're a driver, I would say it's at the bottom of the table in terms of fun, because it requires so much skill. That's why these guys are on the track right now, and that's why we're in the booth, I think, Dylan. Because right now, I would I'd be firewall deep in the wall. Look at that throwback for Respoke. Interesting. I always love seeing those old throwbacks that have very, very little detail on them, we can say, because they're just like the old classic solid color, one sponsor, one number. I always love seeing stuff like that.
Yeah, that's great. Seeing Chase Elliott's throwback to his dad's just simply red scheme from a number of years ago was great, especially with the font change that they did. So a lot of fun. If you haven't seen all the throwbacks going on this weekend, definitely look for it.
I love a monochrome. That's a thing that you folks at Cowling do very well. There's always those monochrome paint schemes. Just one color, maybe a white logo, a white number. I'm a big fan of that. Oh, bad news for fans of Daniel Knight. I think he's gotten into a little bit of trouble, but good news for fans of Jeff Evans. He is the first driver to go off strategy. He's down pit road. Knight is down pit road as well, but I think he had a little bit of journey trying to get down there to the apron.
Yeah, absolutely. Halfway through this race, by the way, and Elliott White.
Elliott White's gotten he's coming down to pit road. He is going to bite first. Regan stays out. White comes in. And I have to imagine that Richard Regan Jr. is going to come down right now to cover off any attempt at the pass from Elliott White here. Any attempt at an undercut. See if Richard Regan Jr. comes down next time. But for now, it becomes a race of one singular outlap for Elliott White. Here comes Richard Regan Jr. into turn 3. Exactly right. He's coming in, and he's going to try and cover off any attempt at Elliott White for the undercut.
This is going to be... I think this undercut's going to be massive.
Whoa, Bradley Holly! Did he hit the barrels there?
I think he didn't. Oh,
Bradley Holly did hit the barrels, got a little bit too hot coming into the pits behind Acosta and Cervantes. And the Whataburger car, what an impact into the barrels. Holly is going to be so disappointed in that, and he's going to be very disappointed that the cameras caught that.
Caught her close up, too.
Yeah,
face full of it.
Barrel cam. But let's see, this is the race off of pit road. Elliott White on track right now, trying to take advantage of this one outlap. So we wait for Richard Regan Jr. to put all 4 tires and fuel in that Supra. White rounding off of turn 4. Richard Regan Jr. exiting the pits now. I think White is going to beat him off of pit road. but it's only a 1-lap advantage for Elliott White. I think Regan's going to be able to close that back up in a matter of moments. It's a big gap, though. It's a big gap for now. That's 1 lap of fresh tires for Elliott White.
Yeah, I don't feel like that gap's going to be closed down quickly. That's a huge advantage. It'll be closed up a bit, but not massively.
It was a 1/10 gap between them before the pit cycle came around. It is now expanded to a 2.3-second gap between Elliott White and Richard Regan Jr. For two guys who were very, very close on pace over the course of the long run, I think Richard Regan Jr. is a very, very uphill battle here with that 1-lap undercut. Mike Knight staying out, though. Doug Evans stays out. Kalen and Emery as well. They're all hoping that a caution comes around for this pit cycle. It's very rare to see a caution in the PRL NASCAR Xfinity Series, though, so they may be waiting quite a while. Let's take a look at this throwback from Doug Evans. Always in the green cars, so keeping that here with that throwback theme. I don't know what that's a throwback to, though. I'm gonna have to ask Doug after the race.
I do wonder what it is. It looks like a throwback, but I also wouldn't be shocked if it isn't.
Elliott White clears Mark Kalen. He's going to take over the race lead as Knight, Evans, Emery, they're all coming in. They couldn't extend it for much longer. Look at that gap now. 2.2 seconds between White and Regan. That's the gap that Richard Regan Jr. is going to be staring at for the next 22 minutes. What can he do to bring that down? He can't push much harder necessarily because the tires are going to fall off. He's just got to hope that he can find maybe a 10th per lap here for the next 26 laps.
10th per lap for 26 laps is going to be a hugely difficult task.
Probably impossible.
Especially, it's going to be the same speed. This is the first time we're going to see Elliott White running, though, not mirror driving, just running his own lines, picking his own spots. That could completely change it, and we've got a point here that Terry's brought up to me that, riding behind a car, it'll kill your tires. If Richard catches him, he'll need to pass him almost immediately.
Well, Dylan, speaking of Terry, guess who we have here in the waiting for interview channel? Unfortunately, it's Mr. Wall from a little bit earlier. Terry, what happened? What happened off of turn 4? I think you need to use your push to talk, Terry.
Oh, yeah. I have an interesting point.
There he is.
Here. When it comes to Richard Regan Jr. and Elliott White, the thing that I learned in practice is if you stay behind the car for an extended period of time, Elliott White's going to have the advantage because he has to be able to move around. Richard can't. He's stuck. And you see the gap pushing. It's going to be tough here, man.
It is going to be tough. Why was it so tough for you? Why did you lose it off of turn 4 that time? What happened?
I just you guys talked about the skills. I don't have much here. I think this is a good learning season for me.
And Dylan, I have a feeling you have a question about the throwback paint scheme.
Man, we're running a Jeff Gordon scheme on a number 3.
Yeah, why not? I mean,
and then we look over there to you on the screen, and yes, we've got the Coke bottles, but then you switch to the Hulk Hogan. Like, come on, man.
Well, the background for the Coca-Cola stuff, it's the official refreshment of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series, which May 16th on iRacing or eNASCAR.live, or you can watch it.
You part of that?
There's no comment coming there. Who's got the best throwback in the field, Terry? Who's got the best one? You can't say yourself.
If I had to say the best throwback, I would honestly have to go with the fan favorite with Danny Cervantes with Junior, but I really think that it has to go to Jim Westerfield. Perry Westerfield was a big fan. He threw back to one of his favorite Buicks, which was super awesome to see. It's good to see Jim still out here at 15th. Very happy.
Look at that. This is one of the best things that Whataback does. They incorporate the sponsors. You saw Miracle Flow getting turned into the logos on Jeff Gordon's car. You see Leroy's, who's Jim's normal sponsor, getting transformed into the sponsor on this car. Look at the Whataback logo on Nicholas Hunter's car behind there. Somebody's got to hire these guys to design some real paint schemes.
Are you talking to me?
I mean, maybe. You got the connections, Dylan. But Nick Hunter, Jeff Evans, I think Thomas Sink designed some of those Whataback paint schemes. Is that right, Terry?
Yeah. Jeff definitely does all of the stuff. He worked about 2 weeks on my paint scheme, and we'll think of something for Texas. I know there's a lot of stuff with the LGBTQ community out here. I might run one of those this year to throw some pride out there for everybody. But this is an amazing race at Darlington.
I mean, it is. Look at this Bradley Holly, who hit the barrels, battling with one of the newer drivers in the PRL, RaceSpoTV, into turn 1. Spoke's clear of him. Holly's had a tough old time through turn 1. Got bullied by Abner Acosta. Gets cleared by RaceSpoTV. And Mr. Barrels falls down to P9. But Terry, one more thing before we leave you. Who's going to win this race? Is it going to be Elliott White?
Yeah, I don't want to go against Richard because he's my teacher, but I think Elliott White's going to win this race. When you take the lead here, unless he's on the edge and kind of crazy and he burns his tires up, I think he's got Richard pretty much set where he's at.
Race Spot's own Terry Radford might be in the pits, but still giving us all those nuggets of information, Dylan. I think Bradley Holly might need some nuggets of information. Got a little bit loose off turn 4 there. I think he provided some nuggets of information to his team that I'm thankful were muted, and he's just trying to keep touch with RaceSpotTV for the moment. Did you just call Bradley Holly Mr. Barrels? I did call him Mr. Barrels. He's gonna hate you for that. Well, somebody's got to do it. We gave Mark Kalin Bubbles the wall sponge for too long. Eventually, it has to move to another driver. I'd call Mark Mr. Park on the track, but I mean, he served his time. He served his time. He's been rehabilitated. But look at that RaceSpotTV throwback. That's the one that I mentioned. It's so simple. I think that's it. Oh. Producer Arjuna doesn't want me to ditch Mr. Barrels just yet. There it is. It could have been worse, but he loops it afterwards, which is interesting. Like, he only got the rear quarter panel. Like, he would have been fine, but I think he overcorrected and then looped it around. Honestly, all things considered, he might have had a net neutral time because he really rushed in there. Yeah, I'm trying to see if RaceSpotTV ever told us what the throwback was. I think it's a very early paint scheme of his own. I think he actually ran a car like this in real life because he does some Legends car racing, or Richard Regan has done Legends car racing. I believe Reese races late models and such up in the Northeast, and I think this is a tribute to that potentially. Gets a little bit of a drift on off of turn 4. I gotta do some research here. I'm gonna check the RaceSpotTV Facebook page and see if he's told us what specifically it is. But there's our old buddy Jeff Evans. I always love the Jeff Evans facial expressions because he always looks a little bit constipated. You know, I was gonna say that Jeff and I had a very nice conversation about his paint scheme choices. For this week, so it was definitely, or last week, and it was definitely a lot of fun. Mainly discussing the Darth Maul inspired scheme as we're side by side between two cars that said, I want the same colors as you, just in different locations. Yeah, it's a little bit like the World Endurance Championship. There's a lot of white and red out here. It's hard to differentiate them. So that is definitely his throwback to recent late model stocks he races. Oh, somebody's in the chat here. Potentially, are they in the chat? How did you learn this information? Where'd this come from? My sources. Your sources? You got secret sources that I don't have? Well, I get messages from Terry sometimes. I see. He's listening. He's listening. I think I got a note. Oh, I got the same notification, I think. Oh, no, that's from Arjuna. He's already quoted. He always looks a little bit constipated. I'm not wrong. When we see Jeff Evans on camera, that's just his permanent face sometimes. He always looks a little bit like the serious face. You gotta have a serious face, you know? Exactly. It's like everybody's got a racing face, and they're all so courteous to give us their faces here on Zoom, and all we do is bully them for it. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you a strategic question here. Yes. We're around 17 laps removed from pit stops, give or take. If a caution were to come out here, would you go back into the pits? Yes. No question whatsoever. You've got to do it. We've already fallen off a full second from our usual lap time, so I'd absolutely be coming in here, and I would expect the entire field to follow me in. See, I don't disagree, but I think
that becomes less of a absolute yes the more seconds run off the clock. Because if there was a caution to come out now, there would only be around 8.5 or so minutes, 9 minutes of racing left. That's 18 laps. I don't know. That's a hard question.
I mean, what if we get a question, or what if we get a caution right now and we answer that question? Can we curse it into existence?
Only if you look at the time that Richard Regan just gained on Elliott White.
Yeah, look at that. Down below 2 seconds now. On that last lap, he was 0.3 faster. Maybe this isn't over. Maybe we wrote off Richard Regan Jr. too early.
No, we didn't write him off. We didn't write him off. His prodigy for this race wrote him off. Terry Radford.
He did. I mean, I think we did too, but Terry was more recent, so we can forget about us and we can just say it's Terry's fault. And I think Richard heard that. Richard probably heard that and said, you know what, I'm going to prove Terry wrong. I'm driving back up there.
He was very blunt about it. Yeah, no, my teacher's not winning this race.
The old tutor-tyro relationship. We always love to see it, but Richard Regan Jr. on that last lap, still 0.2 faster than Elliott White. He was taking chunks of time out of White's lead, and I think this might just be the karma of the throwback world coming back to bite Elliott White for not having a throwback.
I mean, I can't really, yeah, superstition, you know? Like, you can't really blame the gods of throwback weekends. You
can't. I mean, we can if White hangs on, we'll say they don't exist, but right now, things are falling. Again, all you ticker watchers out there, we know you're out there. You're watching the numbers on the left side. Number gets smaller. That's very easy to understand for commentators. Number gets smaller, gap gets smaller, race get closer. It's as simple as that.
This is getting a little nerve-wracking if you're Elliott White, to be honest.
Dylan says, remind him to never say the word ticker watchers in his life. I'm going to make you say ticker watchers, because you know they're out there.
It's okay.
Are you not watching, like when you're watching a broadcast at home, are you not staring at the ticker, looking at those gaps coming down?
Trust me, I'm watching.
Hey, you're a ticker watcher. We're all ticker watchers.
I hate that. I don't like that phrase. Side-by-side battle right here, yeah.
Don't got to be a ticker watcher to appreciate this one. Holly's got his revenge on Reese Bogue. Bogue got by him a little bit earlier with an aggressive move into turn 1, and Bradley Holly, as simple as that, back by Bogue for P8. Then, I remember a couple of seasons ago, it was about 2 years ago, Bradley Holly won at Darlington in the Cup Series, and we were saying Bradley Holly has got to be one of the strongest drivers in this series in terms of saving tires. He's done a great job, and he's certainly done that in comparison to Reese Bogue as well. Bogue almost gets a bumper to him through 3 and 4, but I think Holly has been just that little bit stronger on the tires here, and if Bogue can't get by him, expect him to look a little bit further forward to Daniel Knight.
My goodness. Elliott White is only half a second up front. A note from Terry Radford. He says that White is losing time off of 2 and gaining in the exit of 4. And Regan is using more of the track in 1 and 2, while Elliott is only using a quarter of the track in the corner. Jumps out of the car, becomes an analyst.
Yeah, that's what we talked about a little bit earlier. It might be the Long Beach of ovals, but it's still a multi-groove racetrack. Richard Regan Jr. playing with the laws of physics here, playing with the boundaries of reality and running his own line. And this is coming down. 10 minutes to go in this race. It has flown by, and we're about to have a barn burner on our hand, or a blockbuster, I should say.
Yes, very good. It's one thing to catch a driver. It's a completely other thing at Darlington to try and pass the driver.
I wonder if these guys come close together. We've had such a clean season so far this season. There's been so few cautions in the Xfinity series. We haven't really seen a driver like Richard Regan Jr. or a driver like Elliott White run into each other and get into a little bit of argy-bargy. The tempers do have to flare eventually. I'm not going to say they're gonna happen tonight, but if Regan does have to get aggressive, it's entirely possible for 2 drivers to get into each other at Darlington.
This is getting nerve-wracking.
You can hear that I'm just trying to hype up an accident here. I want some drama.
You don't think this is drama already?
It is drama, but I want even more drama. I want rivalries here.
Well, you certainly created a rival with your phrase, ticker watcher. So I'm going to throw the word moist back in your face.
I don't actually hate the word moist. The word
All
moist
right,
is okay.
you're ridiculous. Back to the racing.
I can't even defend the word moist. I mean, think about a cake, a moist cake. It's great.
That is the only acceptable. Anyway, back to the racing.
Moist sucks. I'll say that much. Mark Kalin getting drifty off of turn 4. We don't normally see modifieds racing at Darlington, but Mark Kalin looks a little bit like a modified back there. Right now, we're basically just waiting to see if Regan can keep this progress forward. As you heard Terry tell us, all of the track being used by Regan through 1 and 2. But I think White has adjusted his style a little bit. I think he's looking back at what Regan is doing and saying, you know what, I need to get a little bit more aggressive here. I probably need to use a little bit more of the track, and he started to pull that gap a little bit more.
Well, how much of this is Regan just kind of using up his stuff? I don't know. But let's take a little look through all the Zoomers.
Zoomer time.
Zoomer time. Put your camera up, Jacob. My goodness.
I mean, we can see most of him. We can see the important parts of him. We can see the bottom of his face. And those lights are still going. I mentioned this with Brett Karakoff because he's got the party lights going. That's got to be distracting. If you're seeing red, purple, orange, it's got to be distracting in the middle of the race. And Mark Kalin might be getting distracted by the blinking lights of the Millennium Falcon. Or not the Millennium Falcon, the Star Destroyer. Is that what that is?
Very good. Very good.
I only know that because it's a Lego. I wouldn't know that if it was just a picture of the movie.
Chris Justice. We can't really see. Oh, there we go. 125. That's pretty much been completely the same all race. Maybe different at the start.
And the West Virginia Mountaineers representing WV. My condolences, unfortunately, because he's
smiling. He can hear us, can he?
He has to deal with the West Virginia Mountaineers. Richard Regan Jr.
So focused.
Yep. I mean, we mentioned some drivers have sort of a resting race face. Richard Regan Jr. just has Richard Regan Jr. face. He doesn't look happy. He doesn't look sad. The bottom of his face kind of looks like IndyCar driver Callum Ilott, and he's just going Regan mode.
So in RRF, it stands for Richard Regan face or
Richard Regan face
or resting race face.
Getting a little bit of a drift on there at the end, and that's the end of our Zoom guys for this week. I think we do still have Jeff Evans. Terry was there. I think we've lost him, and I think Jeff Evans may have been disconnected as well. I think maybe he heard the word constipated and he yeeted himself out.
Well, we've seen that gap between Regan Jr. and White stabilize at around 7 to 8 tenths. We're also getting to the point where, with 5.5 minutes to go in this race, next question, it'll come close to either ending the race, or if it happens in the next minute, giving us maybe a one-lap shootout.
I think it's going to be tough to get a caution with all this separation. The closest gap on track right now... Yeah, closest gap on track right now is 0.4 of a second between Nicholas Hunter and Matt Gagnon for P13. So if we do get a multi-car crash, it's going to have to come from them two. There they are. Gagnon leading in that Gulf race spot number 14. Nick Hunter in the Wadaback number 109 behind. And Gagnon gets into Hunter gets into the wall, rather. That's going to put him under pressure from Mike Knight, rather, behind him. This might be for P13, but this is the closest battle on track, as here comes Knight to the outside.
I'm loving this. Doesn't matter where the battle is. If we get a good battle, it's great. That Hot Wheels machine, what a great job from their sponsor, Wadaback Racing, to play along with the Hot Wheels design.
Look at that. They turned Wadaback into Hot Wheels.
That's awesome.
This is incredible.
That's so cool.
I've never seen anything like it, but look at this. Elliott White in lap traffic. Things are getting crazy for him. That's Chris Justice, who is on the lead lap. He wants to stay on the lead lap, definitely, but he is going to pull out. He's going to let Elliott White by. He's not going to get too hard in the way. But there's some other drivers coming up ahead who are going to be a little bit tougher, and who's that right ahead of Elliott White? It is the Bogue of Regan Bogue Motorsports, Reese Bogue. I think he's definitely got some interest in helping out his teammate in second.
I always love when the teammate of the guy running and chasing down the guy from second to first has some help with a teammate in front, because he's not making it easy whatsoever, and that's what a teammate should do. Yeah. Oh, he's blocking. Oh, he's blocking.
I don't even think he necessarily blocked there. He just ran his line, but White is so much quicker that into turn 3, RaceSpoT, I think Richard was hoping that White might catch him through 3 and 4, hold him up a little bit more, but White's through, and now Regan's got to pass those same cars.
That's all she wrote. I think the fat lady is singing.
Unless Elliott White hits the wall. Can never count that out.
Self-inflicted wounds. Don't.
That would be tragic as RaceSpotT goes drifto off of turn 2. Those tires are falling off. This place is shredding those tires. You might not think it with Elliott White, but RaceSpotT showed us the effects of a 25-minute stint on tires.
So I agree wholeheartedly with what Terry has said to me, and exactly what we were talking about when the pit stop cycles happened, that Regan lost this race when he long pitted.
I mean, I think all evidence
we said it.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, it was only a one lap difference, but when you're running like nose to tail, there's no difference. There's absolutely no difference. You're going to save a lot more time on that lap out than you'll lose later in the run.
Also, we've got information from Kaylee in the chat who says that Reese's throwback is a throwback to his dad's late model from the early 2000s. So it's a Papa Bogue throwback. And I was right. Reese does race late models currently in the Northeast. So give him 10 years and he'll be throwing back to his own late model. Like Kyle Busch.
His own cup car from this year. You know, I didn't say it yet, but College Racing, we're not doing throwbacks this year.
Oh, Bogue in the wall. He was so disappointed in hearing you say that, Dylan, that he threw it in the wall, and that's going to be Chris Justice up into the end of the top 10. He's still drifting it. Those tires are dead, but luckily for him, there's only about 3 laps to go.
Here's some more interesting info from Terry. And again, it goes back to what we're saying about that undercut. 1 lap of a 25 minutes, 50 lap or so worn tires compared to the new tires is a 2.5 second difference.
And that happened in 1 singular lap, and I mean, Regan was able to close the gap, but that makes me think that he was just pushing a little bit too hard to try and close it up and maybe get a chance to make the move, and then the tires would have fallen off anyway, because he is losing again. On the last lap, he was a little bit quicker, but that's just because White was in traffic. And
are we going to go... I mean, I'm just going to jinx it if it happens, but are we going to go caution-free here?
I think so. I wouldn't be surprised.
Now, if a caution comes out in the next 40 seconds, I will never speak a word again.
Yeah, you're fired from RaceSpot if that happens.
I've already given myself so many reasons that I just jinx everybody. It's my thing.
But it's been a crazy season in the PRL NASCAR Xfinity Series. Last season, we had a lot of clean races. We did still have a couple of cautions, though. I think we've had more caution-free races in this series this season than we've had races with cautions.
Sounds about right.
I don't know the exact average I rating of this field, but it is pretty high. White flags in the air for Elliott White, and he will get 1.5 more miles, or a little bit over 1.5 more miles, to experience the thrills and spills of Darlington. He was running second behind Richard Regan Jr. for the first stint of this race, put the ultimate pressure on him, but couldn't make the move. Then decided, you know what? If I can't make the move on track, I'm going to make the move in the pits. A 1-lap undercut gave him the lead. He survived through lap traffic, and he's held off the ultimate challenge from Richard Regan Jr. Off of turn 4 without a throwback. Elliott White is going to win the throwback race at Darlington, and he's going to win for the 10th time in the PRL. It's double digits for the number 27, the Pink Panther. That's some pretty special territory when you get yourself into the double digits. Less than 30 drivers have won 10 races in the PRL. Puts himself aligned with the likes of Thomas Sink, who's won 10 races, Joshua Chin, who's won 10 races in the PRL, and quite a few drivers. Elliott White very much putting himself in those all-time books. The winningest driver in PRL history, Bradley Holly, comes home in 8th. And Chris Justice is going to round out the top 10. Another great run for him.
Only 9 cars have finished on the lead lap of this race. Majority actually finished either on the lead lap or a lap down, which is really impressive, especially for Darlington. We had a caution-free race. Unbelievable.
It's absolutely incredible stuff in the PRL NASCAR Xfinity Series this season, and Elliott White wins and gets the fastest lap and doesn't get the pole position point, but he almost maximizes his points this week. Richard Regan Jr. comes home in second ahead of his teammate Danny Cervantes, who did beat Abner Acosta to the line there. So Abner's going to lose even more points in the championship, unfortunately. Then it's Sink and Evans down to 6th, Knight, Holly, Zemke, and Chris Justice down to the end of the top 10. One lap down as well was Reese Bogue, who was really struggling at the end there. And the admin, the organizer of this all, Charles Sumner, had a great race up into P12. Gagnon, Knight, Hunter, and Evans, and Westerfield down to the end of the lead lap. Jim Westerfield doing a great job in honor of his dad today. Jacob Emery went 2 laps down. Mark Kalem brought a damaged car with no front end home 2 laps down. Colton Lane was 3 laps down. Then we get into the used car lot, very small. Jeremy Bailey, 35 laps down, and Doyle Lawrence and Terry Radford were unable to make it to the end of the race. But the driver who made it to the end of the race first is here with us down on victory lane, and it's Mr. Elliott White. Challenging Richard Regan Jr. at Darlington is one of the ultimate challenges. Were you expecting to go for that undercut from the very beginning, and did you expect it to pay off as well as it did?
No, it was just a situational thing. I mean, we were past halfway, or getting to halfway, so I was wondering if he was going to pit around halfway anyways, regardless of what I did. But yeah, I just kind of felt like it was the time, and it happened to be pitting before him. I think is, I guess, a pretty standard oval tactic. But I was lucky on pit road. I almost missed the pit entry, but it probably helped create the gap.
So I don't know if you're aware of these statistics here, but with this win, it's your 10th win in the PRL. You've dug into the double digits now, finally. Texas is coming up next week. Do you think it'll be win number 11 there?
Oh man, I doubt it. I've not driven Texas, but yeah, I really don't know. I would have to get on it for sure, because I don't really know what to expect there, to be honest.
Well, we'll let you get practicing, Mr. Race Winner. Congrats on the win tonight, and we'll see you next week at Texas.
Right. Just want to say condolences to Jim and the Westerfield family. Hope Perry would enjoy the race we put on tonight, and of course, thank you guys for the broadcast as always.
Always a pleasure, and Elliott White, your race winner tonight, issuing his condolences to Perry Westerfield, as we have been doing all night long. Second place, Richard Regan Jr. is here with us as well, and he's with Dylan Coyle.
Richard Regan Jr., valiant effort does not come to fruition. I gotta know, to you, where was the race lost?
Tire management. I pushed a little bit at the beginning. I wasn't sure how Elliott's pace was going to be, so I knew that second run I had to save a little bit. And then I was saving after the pit stop, and then when I was trying to work the gap down, I just pushed a little too hard here and there, and as soon as you spin the right rear, you're pretty much toast. So Darlington's always been a struggle with me on the long run, so to come away with P2, I'm pretty happy.
I feel like what we were talking about beforehand was, it seemed like the difference might have been the overcut. Just one lap, and it was a 2.5 second difference. Did you almost have a oh shoot moment when that happened, when you saw that the undercut was happening?
Not really. I didn't think he would pit then. I thought he'd probably pit the lap after that. The overcut strategy tends to be pretty successful on the road side. I mean, the oval side too. I used it a few times last season and in the past, and I think it just really came down to Elliott had the better driving tonight. Even before the pit stop, you could tell he was tenths faster than me per lap. He was just biding his time to get around me, and I was trying to hold him off because I knew if I let him get out too far, that'd be it. So he definitely had more long run than I did tonight.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Hey, congrats on the second place. Still trying to win this championship.
Yeah, thank you. Let me give a shout out to the Westerfield family and dedicate this race to them. Mission 22, Neonism Paints, Multiple Sclerosis Society, everyone at Regenbogen Motorsports, RaceSpotTV, Danny Cervantes, everyone at Dirty South Racing, everyone at the PRL, and you guys at RaceSpot.
I appreciate it very much. Joey, still got one more to go.
Yeah, one more to go. Danny Cervantes, Regenbogen gets 2 cars in the top 3 here. Were you expecting this race to go caution-free, Danny? Were you expecting to survive 50 minutes around this place?
With as clean as cars I did not expect to survive that long. I only think I had like 1 or 2 very, very minor wall taps. When I pitted, only had about 2 seconds worth of damage. But typically with how this track is with the cautions and the narrow racing surface, it does tend to go green, especially with smaller fields like this. But overall, it was a pretty good and fun race.
Certainly fun to watch, and I do have to ask you about the throwback. Terry Radford deemed it the best throwback in the field. What made you choose Dale Jr.? Why was that the one for this one?
I just wanted to see the outrage of having a Dale Jr. scheme on a Toyota of all things.
I mean, that's as valid of a reason as anything.
He had a pretty good one. If he put the Dale Sr. font on his instead of the Jeff Gordon font, his would have won out over mine, I think.
It may just have done that. But Danny, I think you win for today. You definitely win on the track. Congrats on P3, and we will see you at Texas next week.
Yeah, see you guys next week.
Danny Cervantes comes home at the end of the top 3. Good little race for Regenbogen Motorsports this week, and next week we travel to Texas Motor Speedway, a track where Richard Regan Jr. hasn't necessarily had the best of luck at times, but it's going to be a crazy day. It's a very, very wide track, and maybe not the most popular track amongst the drivers.
You know, I still have hope. I still have hope that it's going to be a good race, right? It's not the real world. It's the virtual world, which can lead to a little more daring maneuvers. But man, I wish we were racing at North Wilkesboro with both series.
Well, we'll be traveling to Texas for this. We will be traveling to North Wilkesboro for the trucks, and I've actually just been told now that there was a whole thread on the PRL forums explaining what every single truck and Xfinity car was a throwback to today. So if you want to check that out, you can go to precisionracingleague.com/forum, and you can check out all of the throwbacks that we saw tonight in very, very bright detail. There were a lot of obscure cars being used, a lot of cool paint schemes being created. So I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to look at all the effort all of these drivers and paint scheme designers went through. But for now, that's going to be the end of our journey here at Darlington tonight, paying tribute to the Westerfield family and the Hunter family, of course. Our condolences for their losses, and we're thankful we were able to race on in their honor with the PRL community. We hope you'll join us tomorrow night for even more PRL racing. It'll be the F3 series. But for now, I've been Joey Tebben. Dylan Coyle's been Dylan Coyle. Our producer's been Arjuna Kankapati. Until we see you next time, so long.